try not to be late. Recognitions. I'll start off if you don't mind. Congratulations to Central High School's Cedric Jones for, is Cedric here? Cedric. And Mr. Marty Svonar, thank you very much. Is that right? If you would like to come to the podium, you're certainly welcome while I read this. Congratulations to Central High School student Cedric Jones for being selected as Governor of the American Legion Boys State. Boys State is among the most respected educational programs of government instruction for high school students. Cedric has been selected by his peers to serve in this capacity. Congratulations to Cedric on this accomplishment. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Kind of stole most of my thunder, but
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Well, good evening, and on behalf of the American Legion Department of Illinois, I bring you all greetings. My name is Marty Slonar, and I'm a member of Post 24 here in Champaign. And before, again, introducing our guest, who you know who he is, if you would, just a few things about the American Legion. We are the largest veterans organization in the country, a tad over 4 million. To belong, one had to wear the uniform of the United States in times of conflict. By the way, the conflict periods are determined by the Congress of the United States. We no longer wear our uniforms, but instead just a simple blue barracks cap. You see, we learned long ago, especially after a big meal and a second plate, our trousers would be a little tight, but a hat, it fits no matter what. And our motto is, we continue to serve America. One of our programs under Americanism is devoted to children and youth. We sponsor, to name a few, American Legion Baseball, Cub Scout Packs, Boy Scout Troops, the American Legion School Medal Programs, which both high schools and all your elementary schools are involved in, high school oratorical contests, and of course, Boys and Girls State. Boys State was founded in 1935. We just taught our 79th class last June. Our founders believed that in order to make our young men better citizens, they should know and appreciate how our government works. Not just by reading about it in a book or two, but by actually doing it. Last spring, I recruited seniors-to-be at both Central and Centennial. By the way, if I can name drop a little bit, my contacts at Central, Mike and Katie Sitch, and also at Centennial, Marion Wyatt. Can't tell you how much we appreciate their cooperation in identifying young men like Cedric Jones. And by the way, while I'm doing this, I want to thank you so very much, the board, the administration, for letting the American Legion come in to the high schools to do this important work. Although I didn't know Cedric at the time, we recruited him. Some 500 boys gathered at Eastern Illinois University for a week in early June. They're put in political parties, their roommate is in the opposite party, they're placed on a dormitory floor, and they're named in a city, 3 cities to a county, and all the counties make up the state. Mornings are filled with classes dedicated to the 3 branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. Afternoons and evenings, sports and assemblies. In their spare time, boys run for city, county, and state political offices. They campaign, make their own banners, give speeches, and all boys go to the polls and vote. In short, we create a mock government patterned after our state and federal government. One young man who involved himself in all city, county, and state campaigns, of course you know, is here with us tonight. And you probably know him as Cedric Jones, senior at Central High School. But I know him as the 1014th governor of Premier Boys State, the Honorable Cedric Jones.
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all again. Just a few words about the program and my experience that I had there. I would truly recommend Boys State to anyone who is going to be a senior in high school, because that's the requirements. And just anyone. It doesn't really matter if you're interested in how our government process works or not, because it really was the motto is kind of the week that shapes a lifetime, and it really was. I've met a lot of people. And I'll never forget, because personally, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually a very shy person. So it was, it took a little bit of a mind change to go to Boys State and kind of change things up. I'll never forget that one of our city councilors told me, at Boys State, you can be whoever you want to be. And I was like, okay, I can change. I don't have to be that shy person who kind of just sits to himself. I can be, the guy who goes up to somebody and who says, hey, how are you doing? And that's what I did. And I started at the city level, and I actually became mayor of my city, which was a crazy story because my roommate was actually running against me. So that was interesting. Then I went to county level, and I ended up becoming senator. And finally, we went to the state elections, and out of 60 boys who ran for governor, and out of the 500 that were chosen to attend Boys State out of the thousands in Illinois, I was chosen governor, which is the highest position. And I can tell you it was truly an amazing experience. And the support and everything that I got from my peers was wonderful. But truly, the Illinois American Legion and the Legion across America, they sponsor a really amazing program. So I truly would recommend for us just to really kind of endorse this program and to make it more well-known so that we can help better prepare young boys and girls of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
All six spring athletic teams at Central High School earned the IHSA Team Academic Award. The team GPA is calculated based on each varsity athlete's overall GPA. Each team must meet the minimum 3.0 GPA to earn the award. Each of the following teams will be recognized in the 2014-15 IHSA State Tournament program for their respective sports. Boys tennis, Coach Scott Davis, 3.86. Girls soccer, Coach Mick, 3.66. Girls track and field, Coach Hood, 3.47. Softball, Coach Jamal Matuka, 3.38. Boys track and field, Coach Augie Johnson, 3.35. And baseball, Coach John Staub, 3.17.
Two Jefferson Middle School science teachers, Ms. Jacqueline Baxter and Ms. Jennifer White, have been awarded the Illinois Science Teacher Association and ExxonMobil Outstanding Teacher of Science Award, and $1,000 each. Ms. Baxter and Ms. White are two of 11 teachers in the state of Illinois to receive this honor.
Thank you to the City of Champaign Township and Township Supervisor Andy Quormstrom for becoming a financial contributor to the Summer Youth Employment Program. The Summer Youth Employment Program is in full swing this summer, and this contribution ensures that students will continue to benefit from this community-wide collaboration.
Following the rollout of the Framed, a Unit 4 Student Art Expo, currently on display with Adams Outdoor Advertising, Central student Netta Sroka was approached about selling prints of her painting, Running Horses, that is part of the exhibit. So far, she's sold 3 prints of the painting and has them for sale now for $45 each. Thank you again for Adams Outdoor Advertising for working with us to share our student artists' work with the community. I have one question. How can people get more information on?
Stephanie Stewart.
Okay. If anyone is interested in purchasing one of Netta's works, please contact Stephanie Stewart with the district.
Unit 4 teachers, educational technology coaches, and administrators recently participated in the Chancellor's Academy at the I Hotel and Conference Center. The Chancellor's Academy is a concentrated week-long school term-oriented professional development program which is planned and implemented by the teacher collaborators at the Center for Education in small urban communities in partnership with teacher and district leaders in Champaign and Urbana public schools. The Academy engages approximately 100 local teachers each year. On July 19th, students will return to Kenwood and Barksdall. Our balanced calendar elementary schools, administrators, staff, and families will look forward to a great school year ahead.
Westview Elementary School has been selected as one of only 27 schools in the state of Illinois to receive the platinum level recognition for school-wide implementation of positive behavioral interventions and supports. Congratulations to the RTL team at Westview.
Okay, thank you all. It's now time for public comment. I do have 3 cards in front of me. I just want to remind you that if you're speaking at the microphone, you have 3 minutes. If you would, please give your name and address. And then Lynn Stuckey, our parliamentarian, will time you, so please keep an eye on her, and she'll let you know 30 seconds before, so you can wrap it up. Okay. First person, Catherine Curry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Catherine Curry. I'm a resident of Savoy. For the last 6 years, I've gone to Bottenfield Elementary School. I have truly enjoyed my teachers there. My experience here as a student in Unit 4 schools has been great. I have had many great opportunities in the addition to academics such as clubs and field trips. This year, I will be attending Edison Middle School. The reason for my visit this evening is to ask you to consider the addition of middle school girls softball at Edison, Franklin, and Jefferson. I have met a few dozen girls who play Park District, Light Travel, and recreational leagues. These girls will all attend one of our 3 middle schools in Unit 4. Eventually, these students will feed into Central or Centennial. Having middle school softball can help prepare for the competitive Big 12 conference that girls will face in high school. Now, I understand that middle school baseball is relatively new. I applaud your effort of passing baseball, and I'm sure it is a great opportunity for students who wish to continue in baseball. I played both baseball and softball. There are similarities and differences, but I don't believe that playing baseball fully prepares girls who wish to play softball competitively. It's really a different game. They're different. There are many school districts of varying sizes in our region that offer middle school or junior high softball. The list includes Mahomet, Unity, St. Joe, Rantoul, Catlin, St. Matthews, Danville, Bloomington, Normal, and Peoria. You may note that several of these districts are in our Big 12 conference. I would encourage you to look at the success rates of the high school softball teams with middle school feeder programs. In closing, I hope that you will consider the addition of middle school softball. I find the sport to be very fun. You don't have to be the tallest or the fastest to be a good player. Mostly, I like it. It provides exercise, fun, and positive social outlet for girls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Catherine, what position do you play? Everywhere? Awesome. Okay, thank you very much.
What's your favorite
Versatile, that's important.
Yes.
I like everywhere.
Okay, all right. Thank you
been
very
on the
much. Gary Wolf?
My name's Gary Wolf. I live at 810 West Maple in Champaign, just down the street from Spalding Park. This school deal has become a big problem, it seems like, for everybody. First of all, at one of the meetings, you had an architect standing next to you while you read off some of the figures of construction. And then a couple days later in the paper, he reverses the numbers and says maybe the two schools can be built for about the equal cost or maybe even less. And that's a $50 million mistake. Anybody that makes a $50 million mistake, I think I'd fire immediately. Get a different architect in there, somebody knows what the heck they're doing. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to reverse yourself like that. There's been several consulting groups over the years involving Spalding Park for different things through the city, through the schools, and through the park district. And it seems like every time these consulting groups come back and tell you that you need to leave Spalding Park alone, you need to leave the green space in the city where it is. The teachers and the students and the residents have all overwhelmingly told you that they are not interested in having Spalding Park used for the school. I'd like to also know why these 400 phone calls that were made were supposedly made to just voting public. You don't have to be a registered voter in order to have a opinion about what goes on around your neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods happen to be older neighborhoods, and there are problems with the sewer systems. Last 3 years, we've had 3 sewer systems go down, and it costs the homeowners between $10,000 and $20,000 to fix it. Now, if you got that in your pocket, that's great, but I don't have that in mine. Guy 2 doors down just today got his fixed. It was going to cost him $21,000 for his sewer system. You start pumping these buses with students on down the streets, and it's going to create a lot of vibration and undue stress on these streets. You also haven't really told people that if you build the school at Spalding that you're going to be losing a baseball diamond, a softball diamond, and 600 parking spaces. Since I got such little time, on your way home tonight, you start counting 300 houses. Imagine 2 cars in front of each house. And that's how many spaces you guys are going to be asking the city to add to their amendment or variance. Since I'm out of time, I guess that's it. So,
Thanks, Mr. Wolf.
thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Carter?
Good evening. I'm a concerned parent. I used to think that when my son was in the presence of a school facility, they had my son's best interests in mind. Oh no, that is definitely not the case when dealing with an African-American male in Champaign Unit 4 school district. My son was diagnosed with ADHD in June of 2010. His doctor prescribed 3 different types of meds. The medication that were prescribed didn't work. My son often complained of headaches and was too alert to fall asleep. So because of that, I decided to pull my son off the meds. So I started randomly getting calls from my son's school telling me that his behavior was too much, he was out of control. Well, then he was getting rolled up in the classroom for uncontrollable movement and uncontrollable talking. I started looking at the school facility as they were being petty towards my son. I decided then that I would contact Dr. Zola and let her know what was going on. That was in the school year of 2011-2012. Well, 2013, my son was in class, and there was a young lady that was flicking her hair in his face. My son then took an eraser and put it down the back of her shirt. The teacher told me that she would put a sexual offense file in his record if he touched another student. That was it for me. I then also contacted Dr. Zola again and let her know what was going on. My son is not suffering academically. He is well above his grade level, actually, but I was refused the 504 or an IEP plan because his academics were good. I've been dealing with Unit 4 School District for 3 years now. I am fed up. My son was then transferred from one school because his teacher in Thanksgiving school break last year, because I was in the process of switching schools, she packed up all his things and said because my son told her that he was going to be relocating to another school, she took it upon herself to pack up everything that he owned in that school. I was very upset about that. I again contacted Dr. Zola. My son started a new school January 8th. In March, the principal contacted me and told me that my son had came to the school and clicked in with all the wrong kids. After constantly talking with my son and also being a present parent in the school, I also let my son know that he needs to be wiser with choosing his friends. On April the 25th, DCFS was contacted by the school. The reason for it is because I disciplined my son after receiving 3 phone calls from the school facility that week. The 3rd phone call, I was fed up. I was frustrated with also the school because how could you consider me being abusive to my child in the fact of me just disciplining my child? I'm very, very frustrated with Unit 4 School District, and I hope this school year, pending the litigations that I have going on with my attorney in this school district, I hope that we have a better school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
DCFS charges were unfounded. Thank you.
Communications from CFT, CESP, seeing none. PTA Council, seeing none. Board members. John.
Not necessarily a direct response to Mr. Wolf, but some clarifications on some of the architectural estimates, because there is a fair amount of confusion about that. The meeting at Spalding Park and our architects, BLDD, their estimate is that, or DLR, sorry. DLR? You know, they came to an estimate of 45-ish million of end-to-end costs. Property acquisition, clearing properties, getting ready to build, and the building costs. Another architect who is not affiliated with Unit 4 but has given us feedback suggests that just the building costs would be less at Spalding than Interstate Drive. Those do not necessarily account for property acquisition, all the prep costs, and other costs associated before actually putting brick on brick in the ground. But that architect isn't employed by us, isn't hired by us. The media printed the information because they have a right to keep the public informed, but I want to make sure that people understood that his analysis dealt just with the cost of buildings, but there's obviously a lot of other costs associated with using Spalding Park. We haven't retracted our numbers, we still stand by them, but we're still having conversations with the individuals, Mr. Strack and those, to get more clarity and see if there are things that we're missing as we try to come to the best possible high school site location that we can.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? No? Orlando, could we talk a little bit about softball? I know we've talked a little bit about this. I know, come on up. So Catherine's gone, but kudos for her. She did a great job.
Fantastic.
And
Fantastic.
great salesman, Orlando.
She sold.
She sold you?
She's good.
Okay.
I did meet with 2 gentlemen last week that do have a proposal that they brought forward. Ken and I need to meet with CFT regarding some contractual language regarding clubs. And once we get that finalized at that time, I will bring something to the exec team to determine if it's something that we feel like we can move forward with for the 13-14 school year, and certainly share that with the Board of Education.
Thank you. And let me just say, this board member thinks it's really important. My daughter played softball at Centennial, and they would always get their butts kicked. I mean, they went up against teams that these girls were good, and we didn't have a chance because unless you played club, you didn't have that middle school experience.
That's the case with many of our sports. We simply don't offer all of the options that some districts offer, and if you don't have that feeder program, what happens is you get girls that are starting for the first time playing as freshmen, sophomores, and you have girls that have been playing since 3rd or 4th grade, and their ability level is far above ours. So.
And I think we owe that to the girls. I mean, I know there aren't a lot of girls that play in it, but
Yep.
I think that's what our survey showed. But any other comments, Lynn?
Back in 2008, 2007, 2008 school year, there was a middle school athletic committee that met and discussed various things. So we may want to pull those notes and take a look at those also, because I know that there were student surveys that were done at that time. Now granted, those students are no longer in middle school, but that may also provide some useful data.
Yeah, I did share
Right.
an updated survey with Mrs. Bonnet regarding
So,
options.
and so what that data showed was that there weren't a lot of girls that wanted to play softball, but, you know, I get that that may not be as popular as volleyball or soccer or whatever, but I still think it's a valid point. And I think if, for those young ladies that want to move forward in a sport and to help them, I mean, we're seeing that our kids in sports are academically rating high.
I'll stand biased as well with two daughters who played travel softball and participated at Centennial. We're part of those teams that, you know, got their butts kicked, but it was a great time for them. So, yes.
No pressure. I've got the board president and the superintendent. What do you think, Mr. Thomas?
You do what you think is right,
We've
Dora.
got some work to do, my friend.
Well, just to add to that, though, the travel teams are the wealthier kids. You have to have a lot of money. It's
true.
very
That's
expensive
right.
to be on a travel team, and a lot of kids, when there's no more park district available, they fall off. And, you know, like you said, the kids who play sports and are active in our schools do better in our schools, and they stay out of trouble, and everything we can do for these kids, I think, is really important. And so, we're looking forward to hearing more.
Tomorrow.
21st, we meet with CFT, and we will certainly bring back an update for you guys.
So is it possible we could have something this next school year?
The proposal is for them to start yet this summer, and they have it's a really strong proposal with lots of community people bringing forth some resources and some funds
Awesome.
to help offset the district costs for the first year.
Yeah,
I
when
look
baseball
forward to hearing.
started, it started that way, that it was a volunteer, everything, it wasn't funded the first couple of years, and then while it built.
So this will not, like club, this will not cost our kids any out of pocket.
So the issue that Orlando and I are actually meeting about is a separate issue, but it has potential to affect this as well. So there's a number of ways we can structure that potentially.
Okay, thank you very much. I look forward to hearing that report. Thanks, guys. Any other comments from board members? Okay. Upcoming events. Ileana, would you like to start us off?
Sure. July 15th, substitute teacher recruitment fair, 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in the Mellon Boardroom.
Bad news, July 19th, first regular day of school, full day for grades 1 through 5. It's that time already.
More bad news? July 22nd, Balance Calendar, second regular day of school. It's a full day, grades K through 5, and half of the kindergarten class attends.
July 23rd, balanced calendar, third regular day of school, full day grades K through 5, and 1.5 kindergarten class attends.
So I
I'm
guess-
sorry, half, excuse me, yep.
So I guess this item's good news. July 28th, special board meeting, 6 PM.
What's happening at that board meeting, by the way? I'm just kidding. August 11th, regular board meeting, 6 o'clock. Next item, reports, new business, Novak Academy, Dr. Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have Mr. Tony Malbia, our new Novak administrator, just presenting some information to you regarding Novak and some of his future plans for Novak Academy.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank you guys for trusting this exciting opportunity with me. I appreciate the exec team, the school board for allowing me to have this opportunity. My family and I much appreciate it. I assure you that my passion and commitment for providing a quality alternative setting for our students is the top priority. I am pleased for the outstanding progress that Ms. Rachel Mayer set the foundation for. It's created a platform for me to put forth some future plans, working with Dr. Taylor to make Novak take it to the next level. I will first go over the 2013-14 enrollment numbers, attendance rates, discipline data, and completion rates on the PowerPoint slide. Okay, our enrollment data here shows that we are actually really diverse. We had one Asian student at one time, and at this point, we chose to collect the data from 44 students. 20 were Black, 3 were Hispanic, 1 was multiracial, and 20 were white. That's a pretty diverse group of students there. Male and female, we were 23 to 21, which is pretty diverse. I mean, it's almost even. And 29% of those were free and reduced lunch, and 3 were special education students. The attendance turned out to be really well. The goal is to look at students' growth after entering Novak Academy. Due to Novak accepting truant students, the average homeschool rate is calculated as well as calculating the same students' attendance rate at Novak Academy. The average homeschool attendance rate was 78.52, and the Novak Academy attendance rate was 87.07, showing an 8.55% increase. Intensive attendance monitoring with daily automated calls and secretary calls and support systems are set up to make sure that we really stay on the attendance piece. So having an 8.5 increase from coming from your regular schools is a lot of improvement there. And if you actually look at the numbers, they're all pretty decent, coming out to a total of 88.47%. The discipline data we're excited about. The 2012-2013 school year showed us having 112 discipline referrals. During the 13-14 school year, only 68 discipline referrals were written, and only 52 actually were ones that were not attendance related. So that is a really good jump, which is a 39% decrease. Of course, the data still shows what the national trends, and data shows that there is a disparity between Black and white students, but overall we had a 39% decrease in those numbers. Our completion rate shows that the state of Illinois is at 83%. We fell just under 82. But again, it's given that the Novak students are already behind in terms of being on track for graduation, we are pleased to be around the state graduation rate. And in fact, it's like 1% below, so these are pretty good numbers. And to break it down by ethnicity here, at one time we had 1 Asian student, 15 Black students that graduated, 3 multiracial, and 17 white, which is a total of 36. And 41% Black, 47% white. Still, we show a lot of good diversity in our numbers here. Future plans, I believe in the importance of building relationships. Once we get our staff in the building, we will plan together to create a system to improve support, teacher-student relationships, and student advocacy. The first person that I made contact with was Mr. Novak. I invited her to meeting with Dr. Taylor and Mr. Thomas to discuss possible changes to the criteria for enrolling students in Novak. I was very fortunate that she was willing to come in and lend her services and offer continued support as we move forward with Novak. I also plan to use relationships that I've built in the community to work with professionals, business owners, to provide Novak students with access to exposure, mentorship, and possible job opportunities. I am excited to put my trade experience and background to good use as well. I've already been in contact with Matt Langendorf, the general manager for the pipe fitters, and we've already set a meeting, lunch date for next week. And I look forward, and he looks forward to sitting down with me. We actually know a lot of the same people on the national level for pipe fitters, so he's really excited about the opportunities for trade opportunities for our students. Just about the criteria change just a little bit, because this is still a work in progress. We have started the process of looking over the application process. As of right now, we've identified some areas which we felt was objective to enrolling students. We're trying to make it less objective, create a process where kids don't get their hopes high, and we kind of take care of some of these things up front instead of rolling them through and kids getting their hopes up and then and not able to come. They're not set yet. I think we're going to go through the first part of the school year with what the old process was, the first one, but after that, we'll move into the new criteria. So we will have an enrollment date this August 1st, but after that, we'll go to our new criteria once we get it kind of ironed out. Any questions?
Thank you. I have some questions.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the questions, and then you can give me the answers, so instead of just Q&A. So if you could talk a little bit about what NOVAC is, how it's different from the other high schools, the application criteria, and for those people that aren't aware of it. And then two other questions. The 39% decrease in referrals, what would you attribute that to? So three questions.
Those are actually hard questions for me to answer by not being there. I know that there was a district, effort towards, looking at the disparities amongst discipline referrals. So I'm not exactly sure that reason, but I can't really attest to that.
But you could get an answer for me, couldn't you?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And the next question, what?
So if you could talk a little bit about what NOVAC is, how it's different from the other schools, and then the application criteria, because you spoke about that, but weren't very specific.
Yes. NOVAC is an alternative setting, and we're thinking of some innovative ways to try to make sure students are engaged and to provide different opportunities. I think most importantly, it is an alternative setting. And we're going to try to keep it that way. We're going to try to keep the discipline and the behavioral issues out. And I think that's the most important thing, that we're really looking at the subjectivity of the process and looking at how we can make sure that it doesn't become a behavioral school, which I know is very important to Dr. Taylor. And I agree with those notions. It's such a small place that it's very, very hard to bring in, certain types of behavioral students into that building because it can be very disruptive. I've worked very hard to try to get in as many of the staff members as possible just to sit down. I can't require them, but I have made contact, and I've met with all but 2 so far. And I'm just trying to understand the culture of the building, the history, what's behind it, what things they felt like worked, didn't, and I'll try my best to incorporate what people feel that could be helpful or non-helpful, while also trying to move forward with our direction.
So the criteria for the application, what is that?
The criteria starts with an application. Last year, in the way it's been in the past, it started with an application process, and there were certain criteria in it that just automatically eliminated you from going in. And we felt like some of those issues were not as, they were subjective, like if you got a discipline for disruptive behavior, sometimes that's subjected to the teacher, how that relationship with that kid or whatever the case may be. And because kids get certain disobedience or disruptive behaviors, it was eliminating them from having the opportunity. And some of it also were attendance issues. So coming from Centennial and dealing with discipline, I actually knew there were a couple of kids I knew of that was like, wow, this kid's not being able to go to the academy, but I think it would be a perfect fit. They need the smaller environment. Most of that kids, discipline referrals came from, I'm not in the right place, I'm in a situation where I'm unhappy, I'm walking the halls, I'm leaving the building, and you end up getting discipline referrals. But the actual cure to that, I think, was to get them to a smaller environment. So looking at that and kind of taking away the subjectivity of discipline referrals that certain teachers write, I think that this ended up becoming we're creating a situation where the criteria is going to be less objective. We're still not going to allow kids. Preliminarily, we're looking at, if you, over a semester, if you've been suspended, so to say, over 2 times, then you're not going to get in. There's certain things that are codes that if you hit getting suspended or getting put in school suspension, you're not going to be able to get in. But it also allows for people who've had minor levels of disruptive behavior, disobedience, or things like that to still have the opportunity and have attendance, to still have the opportunity to get in the academy.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
First off, everybody knows, and I'll state it again, NOVAC is one of my favorite schools because I'm a big fan of just the second chance for students, because these are still students. They're not, as one of our commenters said to us one day, they're not many adults. They're students and they're still children. So giving them a second chance is something that I'm a huge fan of, and I've always appreciated Novak for that. And I'm also very excited with it being under your new leadership, taking a different direction, adding in the trades, again, giving students something else to want to come to school, to want to continue their education beyond the high school. I'm very excited to see how that works and how that continues to move forward because, again, I'm a big trades guy. So when you started, you said you took the information for 44 of your students. Is
Yes.
was that the total number of students or just, because that almost sounded like it was only 44 chosen?
Well, I think that data was pulled from what went into the ALOC grant that actually funds the program. And I think at that time, grabbing in, I'm not really sure how that information was given, but it was 44 students. I think at one time, at different times, there were 52 students. But sometimes if a kid goes back to the high school that came in under attendance contract or discipline contract and they went back, then those kids weren't counted in the 44.
Because the student body is always fluctuating.
It's very fluid and fluctuating.
Okay. And then on the discipline numbers, you said it was 68. And you said 52 of those were attendance?
No, 52 were without attendance related. So actually, there were 14 that added to that 52 that were attendance related. I just didn't want to not share that with you, but I wanted you to know that there were only 52 that were actually behavior or something along that line. They had nothing to do with attendance, like tardies or not showing up or whatever the case.
Okay. Now these, I mean, is like fights or what, I guess what are some of these behavior, what you would know?
I haven't really dug into that.
Investigate that. He's been on the job for 14 days. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
I'm running, but
But
I'm
we
not
can,
running that fast.
I'll tell you what, we can definitely, if you'd like the codes for the referrals, I think that's something we can get from last year.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, Eliana. Oh, you know what, we'll
No,
just
you
go
can-
down the road.
oh, okay.
Eliana.
I want again emphasize how you said that the Novak Academy is not like a behavior school, so it's not for students with behaviors. And I'd rather look at it like a different option or better fit rather than, because our students deserve that. Not everyone can be the student that goes to class from like your 8 to 3 o'clock. Some of these kids have to work. Their life situation is different, so giving them this option is basically, their only choice, so. I'm a huge supporter also.
Can I add for it? I think it's too bad Mr. Malpia, he wasn't here before, but I think one of the things we found in the last couple of years is there was some subjectivity to who got in some cases. And so what we've worked on together, and it's not totally finished, almost finished, is a way to just minimize that, to say that there's certain requirements or certain things that we've agreed, whether it be test scores, whether it be the number of suspensions based on certain things, depending on the suspension that you're in. And then because we were finding some students would get their hopes up, and then they would find they didn't get in, and so we're changing that whole process so that never really happens. It'll, first semester we'll kind of see how it goes, but that is the plan. And so he's been part of that, but again, 14 days part of that.
Yeah, so I have a few questions, but one was the small environment you spoke of. I've heard that quite a bit, and I wanted to get your idea on that. Is that small environment in terms of student bodies, or is that in terms of more attention to that student? Because I know you talked about relationships. So what constitutes a small environment?
I think when I talked about the smaller environment, I was talking about, having certain behavioral students that are in that small environment. It's a small space. I think there is a right side of that, being able to build relationships and know all the kids that are there. But also, when something happens, imagine how fast something spreads and, amongst 50 kids. So we have to be careful of that. And I think that that small space makes it very difficult to do certain things with. So when I was talking about, but again, I love the fact of having a different place for students to go. There are students that simply can't make it in a big, large environment with freedom and having the opportunity, I can do this, I can do that. They need structure. And some people need the small environment where people can keep up with them, see them, know where they are. If there's something going wrong, I can see this right away. And they thrive in that environment. So in that facet, the small environment is wonderful.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I know we've had discussions on new programming for our schools, and one of that has been collaborative open spaces, right? So bigger spaces, and so I think you hit dead on right with the relationship aspect. My next question is, with the kids that are having challenges that are going to Novak Academy, do you guys currently have SROs there?
We have, I don't think we have an actual SRO that is at Novak Academy.
Okay. Okay.
No.
No. Okay. Thanks. Do you think Novak Academy is scalable for other schools? Since you're seeing some of these good numbers, going in the right direction, is it scalable for us to look at into other schools?
You mean to grow?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's a great opportunity for some different things, especially depending on how the trades, how we end up bringing that together. It's going to bring opportunity for more students who are not necessarily college bound to have opportunities to get involved and learn a trade or learn a skill that can also allow them to get a job. I think that's important, and also I think that trying to build somewhat of a group of people in the community who's willing to lend mentorship and lend their expertise on how they got it done and kind of show students, this is what I do and it's doable. I think that's going to be a really good thing to be exciting for students to look at.
Excellent. Yeah, it seems like, as we go forward too, it'd be really great to learn some of the best practices that you've been seeing and see how we can scale that into some of our high schools and further. The other thing that I would ask on the data point would be, could we look at some of the ages too?
Yeah, we actually are looking at the ages. That's the part that we're not really firm on, so I don't really want to kind of talk about that just yet, but we are trying to figure out a way to look at, we're feeling right now that freshmen, we don't think the freshmen should be, they don't know yet if they're good in the high school environment or not. But that's a true freshman. Anything after a true freshman has the opportunity to apply.
Yep.
But as far as the other ages, we're trying to figure that out, how we rate that.
In my opinion, the ages would really speak a lot to areas that we should really focus on more so than someone's ethnic background.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
Christine, did you have comments or?
It was more about the size and, our target size used to be 60 and it looks like it's gone down some. Yeah.
I think it was high as 53 at one point. I think this might have been the last group that went through. They kind of used that for the grant. But I know it was up in the lower 50s, and I think the new process may encourage, we may have more people admitted with the new process.
John? All right. Thank you very much. And no doubt that you will be successful under Dr. Taylor's leadership. High expectations set for you, sir. Next item, Alternative Center for Targeted Instruction and Ongoing Support Actions. Ms. Orlando Thomas.
All right, good evening. As promised, when the Actions Program was approved by the Board of Education as a 3-year pilot last school year, we promised to give a mid-semester as well as an end-of-the-year update. And tonight we are here. I have Katie also with me, my program administrator, to provide a summary of year 1 of Actions.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I'm excited tonight to give you all a glimpse of what we have accomplished in the first year and where we're going in our upcoming years. So as we know, suspensions work for a lot of our students as a consequence only. And for some of our students, they may reinforce the wrong things. And so we had to get creative and start thinking about what more we could do other than just suspensions. As Mr. Thomas talked to multiple students 2 years ago, he found that their time suspended was not used as wisely as we know it could be. And so we started opening the conversation to teachers, to staff members, parents, community members, and we found 2 common themes for what we want for our students who are struggling behaviorally. And those themes were consequences and interventions. So what we heard is that we need to maintain our learning environment. We need to make sure that students surrounding that negative behavior can continue to learn the way that they should be. We also heard that excluding the student is a consequence that can teach the student to do differently next time. And that we have an obligation to protect others in terms of students and staff and make sure that everybody is in a safe learning environment. The other theme, the intervention theme, presented ideas about the actual student who is exhibiting the negative behavior. And what we really wanted for that student was not necessarily to disrupt his or her education. We don't want to take away academic opportunities, but we also need to make sure we have clear consequences. We also know that our students need to feel a sense of belonging and a sense of relationship in order to improve behaviors and improve academics. And so it's important for us to welcome that student back after a negative event. And finally, we know that we needed to provide some sort of intervention, not only just a consequence. And so we've worked on finding this balance between consequences and learning for our students, and that's how we came up with the Actions program. So we shifted our mindset from only providing that consequence, only a punishment, to a consequence plus a learning opportunity intervention, and we came up with the Actions program, which was implemented this year. We're responding to several top offenses, the largest being physical confrontations with students. So 60% of the students that we saw at Actions this year were involved in a physical confrontation with a student. The way that we respond to this at Actions is we have a very specific curriculum, skill streaming, that we use to talk to students about their behaviors and what they can do differently next time. It's a very scripted curriculum and it's scenario-based. And so we ask students to come up with scenarios that they may encounter, real life scenarios, and attribute a different skill set to them in terms of their decision making. And then we role play and practice until that student feels comfortable working through that decision making in a different way that will help them prevent the same behavior from occurring again. And so we found not only that students really shifted their mindset in terms of why they're fighting or how to resolve conflicts, but they shifted their mindset to a point where they were even contacting us at Actions to say, you know, I think so-and-so and so-and-so are having issues right now at Centennial or at Central, and is there something you can do about that? And so towards the end of the year, we were even working with the schools with information that we got from students because we had built that trusting relationship and taught them to look at conflict resolution in a completely different way and then preventing incidents from happening on campuses. So with this educational piece in place, we've seen some really great outcomes, and Mr. Thomas is going to talk a little bit about those.
All right, so one of the goals of the program was to identify the 89 students from the 12-13 school year that had 3 or more out-of-school suspensions. We identified those students. We went out, met with those students, some at their homes, invited parents to come to the Actions program. All in all, we did touch base with all 89 students and parents in some capacity to just let them know we have this new program and what can we do to make sure that your son or daughter's 13-14 school year looks differently. Parents were very receptive and very responsive to that conversation, and we're certainly looking forward to the Actions program. So this is an update of the 89 students that we identified last school year. 53 at the end of the 13-14 school year are still in the district. 20 of the 30 elementary students, or 67%, decreased their suspensions for this school year. They had fewer than 3. For middle school, 11 out of 15, or 73%, decreased, had fewer suspensions this past year than the previous. And for high school, 6 out of the 8, or 75%, had 3 or less. So what did this teach us is that when we provide targeted support for students, when they know that they have a caring adult that is going to check in from a proactive lens and standpoint, that we can begin to see some change with some students that got a lot of time from a lot of adults the previous school year. And so we took pictures of the 89 students, and all of their pictures were up on a bulletin board. They didn't know why, it was just their picture. And so each week we would simply put them in 3 categories. Either they remained with 0, 1, or 2 or 3 suspensions. And so at the end of the year, we were finally able to share with the students, if your picture is up here, the number that you're under was the number of suspensions that you had for this school year. So another way for students to own their behavior and a way to celebrate some changes from year to year. Student progress. The attendance rate For the first semester, this number was at 69%. And for the second semester, it dipped quite a bit, down to 53%. Lots of reasons for that. When a student is suspended, we share with them that you have been assigned to the Actions program. For the repeat students, specifically high school students, they started to ask in April and May, what happens, Mr. Thomas, if I don't show up? It's just a requirement. Well, you've been assigned, the expectation is that you come. But what's the consequence if I choose not to come? And right now, there is no consequence. Our fear is that if we add a punitive piece to this and say, if you don't show up, we're going to extend your time or you can't come back to school, our fear is that a 1 or 2 or 3 day out of school suspension can easily increase to a 4, 5, or 6 day out of school suspension. So that is one of the reasons for the decrease in the attendance. This attendance rate is in alignment with other alternative schools, and that attendance rate hovers between 47 and 60%. So we're right in the middle, about 53% with other alternative settings. We wanted to look at the recidivism. Students that attended Actions that did not have a suspension after they came to Actions. And we're happy to report 55% of the students that showed up and came to Actions did not have another suspension following their interactions with us. We do have high expectations. There's a point sheet where students are monitored. It's every 15 or every 30? Every 30 minutes to make sure that they are on task, completing assignments, participating in lessons, and 95% of those students were able to earn their points, which means they were having a successful time at Actions. Reasons for absences. Absent without reason, 309. Transportation, 24. Very few times, but a few, the parent simply refused. Actions or parent not informed, 63 times. That was a logistical piece that we got figured out at the semester, and certainly a lot of those numbers were from the first semester, and we did get that addressed for the second semester. We did have criteria this year that stated if a student attended Actions 3 times, that they needed a more intense level of support, and that returning to Actions was not a good option. We'll continue to meet this summer to figure out or to have conversations about do we allow students with 3 or more suspensions to continue to come? Because while that student may not go back and not have another suspension, that may not mean that they're not, doesn't have to mean that they're not taking something away from the program. So we will certainly continue our conversations with that. We try not to have students come after 10. The day has started. We have a time at the beginning of each day where we go over expectations, and students that come after 10, they have missed a huge part of the day, and it is, we found it to be disruptive for students that came after 10. Administrators chose not to send the students. That's a case-by-case basis. We have conversations with administrators to ask, do you think this is going to be a good setting? We look closely with our students with emotional disabilities that are used to having maybe a one-on-one aid and be in a smaller setting. Is this going to be a good setting for this student? And so there were times where we decided the Actions program was not going to be a good fit for that student. Our team, one of our goals was to go and present at the national conference, which we did, and we were the hit of the conference. Got lots of positive comments from school districts across the nation. I know Katie shared lots of cards and phone numbers, and lots of people were asking about, man, how did you guys get this started? What was the process? How did you get your board to agree to do this? So I had conversations certainly about the process.
In addition to the quantitative data, we wanted to make sure we looked at some qualitative pieces because we know the numbers can't always say everything about a program, right? And so we did a parent survey at the end of the school year. We called parents of students who had multiple suspensions in our district, and if we didn't get a hold of them, then we mailed out a self-addressed stamped envelope in the survey as well. And so far we've connected with 50 parents, and these are the results that they've given us. Overwhelmingly, 98% of our parents said a program for students to attend during suspension is beneficial. When we asked for reasons, the top reasons that we got were, the top reason was that students can stay caught up academically. And I think that's a huge part. Half of our day is devoted to academics, and students are working on the exact work that they would have at school, which is huge. students can go back with that sense of accomplishment and know that they're on track and they don't have to worry about the academic pieces, and they can concentrate on keeping their behavior where it needs to be so they can continue their lessons. We also heard that suspension at actions is a much more meaningful consequence than at home. Parents were happy that it taught students how to improve their behavior. It was a huge help for our working parents who may not necessarily be able to take a day off to stay home with their student. And especially for our high school student parents, we heard that it keeps kids off the streets. And so in other words, the kids are making good choices because of their setting. We also had 78% say that their child had a good experience while attending actions. And when we asked what the parents felt their child needs to be successful in school, our responses were overwhelmingly based on relationships. Parents said that their student needs to be understood, that teachers need to be more patient, that the smaller setting or one-on-one attention is what they need, or that they need to be treated fairly. And so all of those, based on relationship, we know that's the key to making sure our students are successful in school. The outlier there was consistency. Our parents also asked for consistency, especially with consequences and how they're assigned. In addition to our parent survey, we did a student survey for fourth quarter. So we surveyed as many students as we could who attended actions depending on the day and the academic and social emotional needs. And our students took their survey electronically, except for our younger ones. They dictated and we typed for them. 71% of the students said that they feel supported by their home school staff. 96% of our students said that they felt supported by our action staff. Also, when asked if they benefited from attending actions, 90% of our students said yes, they benefited. And keep in mind that some of them were mad that they had to be there and didn't necessarily enjoy the day, and they still, 90% said they benefited. We asked them the same questions the question that we asked the parent. What specific supports do you need to be successful in school? And overwhelmingly, we heard help with academics. And I know Mr. Thomas and Mr. Roundtree and I have had many conversations about how academics are so closely tied with behavior, and so we know that those interventions need to happen parallel to each other. Also, we heard that students want more adult check-ins, more encouragement, support, or mentoring. And they need to feel respected by adults, so again, those two relationship pieces. And we had several students, which I was very proud of, that said a very specific routine or plan or intervention that they use when they're upset. So they were able to say, at my school, I go to this place and do this thing for this amount of time, and that's what helps me. So that's, of course, what we want to hear, that students already know what the plan is and have that at their discretion when they need it. So those are the results of parent and student surveys. To dig a little bit deeper, I just wanted to include this feedback that we had from one of our first grade student parents. She specifically sought us out several times to say thank you and to write about her experiences with actions, and so I won't read the entire thing, but I just want to share with you. She had a first grade daughter who was struggling very much at the beginning of the year, and she was suspended 3 times in a period of 3 weeks. She had some really severe behaviors, and she came to actions all 3 times. We worked with the parent, we worked with the administrator at the school. We put new plans in place every time that she returned to her school, and it took 3 times, but that 3rd time is exactly what she needed. And so she has not had a discipline incident since then, that was August. So that's one of our success stories. This parent also had a 6th grade son who attended actions, and so she said it was very interesting that she got to see both age groups and how both classrooms function at the Actions program, and how individualized the instruction is. We also have an example of some staff feedback that we got. We do a lot of creative and different things at Actions that we think will make a big impact on multiple students, and one of them is teacher coaching. So we'll go in and observe a classroom and help out and try and put some classroom management techniques in place, or talk through it with the teacher and brainstorm some new ideas. And so this is a letter from one of the teachers that we worked with. She came in mid-year to a very challenging behavioral classroom, and came up with a whole new strategy for how she would focus on social emotional skills. And so she ended up coming up with this acronym for RESET, refocus our energy so education can take hold, and talked about how she taught that and how helpful her communication with actions was to put that in place in her classroom. So with that being said, I have multiple reflections on this year and thoughts for next year as well. Some summary of what I've learned from this year. Our instruction to actions is thoughtful, it's meaningful, and it's controlled. And those of you who have visited, I think you've seen that we strive to make sure that everything we do is very meaningful for our students in the short amount of time we have with them. As Mr. Thomas shared, our early intervention students found a great deal of success. Our students and parents have been overwhelmingly appreciative of the relationships that have developed between students and Action staff. We've done numerous referrals to the Youth Assessment Center. In addition, numerous referrals to Community Elements for Parenting with Love and Limits, which is a fantastic class, and the Prairie Center, especially for our middle and high school students. So we've developed some great relationships with our community resources and have made many referrals. Our staff at Actions are outstanding. They assume different roles every day, and they go above and beyond. We've also learned that for kindergarten, first, and second grade students, they're not always grasping the concept of coming to Actions and what that means in terms of their suspension. And I question whether or not the developmental level is appropriate for this type of consequence. So that's one of my biggest reflections of this year. And finally, many schools took advantage of different kinds of creative solutions that we offered, bringing in guest speakers and different types of mentoring opportunities. So where do we go from there? We've got several next steps in mind. So first, we are adding a teacher and a teacher aide. We know that our elementary schools have very high numbers of referrals and are in need of more resources and more interventions. And so as a result of that, we are adding a teacher that can help support those elementary schools and a teacher aide that can support our program so that we can be out in schools more often. What that will allow us to do is visit schools for entire days instead of just quick visits. So instead of going in and seeing a couple students, we'll be able to spend an entire day somewhere, which means we'll be able to plan with the administrators and the staff and make more meaningful activities and interventions while we are at the school. We plan to develop a website to get more information about the program out. And we're talking about a parental support group or workshop, because as I said, Parenting with Love and Limits is fantastic, but you have to be 10 years old or older for your family to take part in it. So we need something for the families of younger students. We are going to be increasing information that we send out to Unit 4 staff in terms of current research, best practices, classroom management techniques, and pro-social lessons, just to provide more support. And we are going to continue to creatively think about what we can do for our youngest students. So as you can see, there were 350 suspensions in kindergarten, first and second grade. There were 318 in all of high school. So we have a very high level of elementary suspensions at our younger grades, which is something that's very concerning to me. What I've seen at Actions is that especially our kindergartners and first graders do not understand why they're there, and they sort of think it's exciting and it's somewhere new and there's new people to meet and there's new things to do and things to look at, and so it ends up almost being rewarding, and then we're seeing kindergartners and first graders especially repeat their suspension, and that is exactly what we don't want to happen. We've worked very hard to make sure that Actions is not rewarding, but it is beneficial and educational, and so that's something that we need to work very hard on this year and come up with some different creative solutions. So I certainly am opening that conversation, and I know we'll be talking about it throughout the year as to what really is most appropriate for our youngest students. So I hope that gives you a good idea of where we are, what we've accomplished, and where we're going. If you have any questions, I would welcome them.
Jamar, you want to start us off?
I'll start us off.
Jamar, before you start, I do want to add, we are working right now with Donna Oaks Novak, who has some funds in the Greg Novak Fund that she wants to use for a great cause. And because she is an alternative ed person, she asked how we could use the money. And Katie mentioned about the PLL class and how powerful it is for many of our families, but you have to be 10. What we are considering is to use those funds to train our staff so that we can offer the PLL class to students and not have them have to be 10 years old, so that we can work with our students and families of that K-1-2, which is where we're seeing some issues and a spike.
It's kind of an issue across the board, isn't it, that 10-year old limit, and that a lot of our services, it's 10, and we, as we noticed from our numbers, a number of kindergarten, first graders, second graders with issues, and a lack of resources to support these children and the families.
Thank you, that's, thank you, Mrs. Novak, and I think that, for me, that sounds like a great use of the money. Jamar?
All right, questions, comments, all the above. Again, thank you guys for the hard work that you put into actions. I know I was when I saw this, first when I was in LA, and then came back and you guys were in the stages of putting this thing together. I was extremely excited to see something like this, because I am a huge relationship person. And as we see with parents and students, the biggest piece of actions is the relationship they actually have with the students, and know that there's some adult that actually cares about me regardless of what my behavior was yesterday. And I've actually been there a few times, and I actually saw it in action. There was some education going, but there was a heck of a lot more personal relationship building going on there. And even when you deal with the students, where you have the older students helping the younger students, and that whole piece is what makes this work, is the relationships, is what makes this work. So I'm definitely excited to see everything that you've done, how you've moved forward. And I love it, just like the Novak Academy. It's a second chance for these kids to move forward. So with that said, I think, and you definitely hit the nail on the head, is where I was going with my comments. I think we have created our own problem when, with the next report that we're going to have on the suspensions, especially at the elementary level, we have doubled our numbers of suspended elementary students, just about. And I have to believe that part of that is, it's a double-edged sword. Part of that is attributed to before there was nothing for our elementary students, no place for them to go. So you don't just keep suspending us, like you said, at kindergarten, first grade, second, because they don't understand the concept. And so now we have actions that does a wonderful job of being with our children at such a young age. We've doubled our numbers. When we were headed from 2011 to a declining for the last 2-3 years of suspensions in our district, last year this last school year, we've had the second highest number of suspensions in the last 6 school years. So that definitely is concerning to me. And I don't know how we address that, because I don't want to get rid of action because it works. As we see the numbers of students who leave, who go and don't come back again, they understand, the work that you all do going into the schools, talking to the teachers, talking to the parents. I think I said a report here one day, 350-something contacts in 1 month. So you guys are definitely working it. So I don't want to get rid of that piece of it. I think that's just one of the unintended consequences of this. And so I would like to continue to work with you all to see how do we keep the numbers of suspension going higher just because we have something. And when you look at the elementary kids, when you look at the high school kids, and you're a teacher and you say, okay, something has to be done. Do I ignore it? Do I go ahead and sit them on because I know action works? Or I think there's a whole lot of thought process, but because there's something, I think it's an unintended consequence that our suspension numbers are going higher, and that's something that I've personally been trying to battle to get our numbers down over the years. And so I think that's an issue that we're definitely going to have to take a look at, but you already have noticed that, and that's already on the burner to get that taken care of. And so I appreciate seeing that foresight and actually giving the information of just being completely honest. We could have had a very nice, because for the most part, everything on this report is extremely good for our district. Very innovative. No one around here has anything like this. We are the leader. You went to Atlanta. That was a nationwide thing. People saying, what the heck is this? How do we do it? So it's not something that's done around the country. So we are at the forefront of this. So I really appreciate that. But then you brought in the honest piece. Look, we have this one piece of issue that we have to work with. So I look forward to work with that. That was my only concern about that. But what it does say, like you said, that some students are repeating their suspensions just to go back. I mean, something's good going on. They at least like it. So that's a good thing. And I know the teachers. I've seen them in action, and I can completely understand why they would want to continue to go back over there. So.
So, moving forward, when we looked at the data, we knew that we had to respond, and that's where adding the additional staff is going to allow Katie and other staff members to take what we do at Actions and to transfer that information to schools to build capacity within our teachers and administrators, because it's not really magic what happens. It's about relationships. It's about giving the kid the second chance. It's also about having some tools in your tool belt. The people at Actions are people that we don't have teachers that have that skill set, and that's no fault of theirs. And so those school visits are going to be powerful for us to be there for the entire day to observe, coach, and then leave that teacher with some suggestions, and with the hopes that that teacher would then be able to better maintain and do the same things that we do at Actions back at our home campuses.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Karis?
I want to sincerely thank you for this program. It looks fantastic. I do have some concerns with the elementary and abroad, but ultimately I think it's great, and I'm excited to hear that you guys are looking at ways to expand that best practice to our teachers and build that capacity, because the ultimate goal is to not have kids go into the Actions program. I also saw that in the data for elementary and it going up, do we know what age groups that, I'm sorry, not elementary, I'm sorry, not age groups, but do we know for what reasons that the kids are being expelled? I saw that in a document, but I didn't know if that correlated with the elementary, or was that all compiled together?
Are you talking suspensions or expulsions?
Suspensions, yeah.
We can certainly disaggregate the suspensions by grade, absolutely.
Okay. That'd be great to have that data. And then also too, when we're looking at building that capacity too, I wondered with so many students that may have other challenges, that in building that capacity, if there would be an opportunity to rotate different educators into the Action program. So one, they could meld and get that same information to build that capacity, but two, to also relieve some of the teachers from dealing with that. And so you could kind of recharge your battery a little bit. Because I know dealing with kids, you know, in an emotional state can be a little draining too.
Absolutely, great idea. Take it into consideration.
Any other comments, questions? Lynn?
Couple of things. I've been one of the people who's been able to come out to Actions, and it's a very good program. I highly recommend it. I would suggest anyone who's interested, get on the phone, call Mrs. Ossel and her staff, come in, observe, volunteer. They always need people to help at homework time. There's, you know, chances to be a public speaker if you want to follow with that path. There's lots of opportunities up there. I would also like to express my dismay at the 309 children who were absent without reason. I think that this is a program that can be very beneficial to a lot of children, and I do hope that everyone will take advantage of it when it is offered to them. It's definitely something, you know, maybe it won't work the first time. Okay, that's fine. Pick what you can use, and the second time we'll work on building a little bit more until it clicks. Going forward, while I do share the concerns about some of the suspension data that we'll discuss next, I don't think that's your fault. I think there are other things that are going on. But I am glad that you were here this year, because I actually think that you could have potentially mitigated some suspensions. I am concerned to hear that high school students are going, well, if I don't show up, is there a consequence? Because that's not quite the message we want them to take away from here. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's a situation of if you're in high school and you get referred to us and you show up, we enter you into a drawing for a $20 gift card, because we also want to be careful about rewarding bad behavior. I don't have a solution right now. You know, I'm happy to help brainstorm and see if we can come up with a couple of things possibly that work.
I think a really important piece right now is for us to endorse the program, because I do think that, you know, there are still some people out there that aren't sure about it. It's the first year. They need more information about it. And so we do need to deliver information at a higher level to our families, so that should the situation arise, they feel comfortable, they know what the program is, where it is, and how it works. So I think one small thing that we could do right now is just make sure that we are talking about what truly happens at Actions and what the outcomes are. And I also wanted to clarify, Jamar, about your comment earlier. I really only see that wanting to be back with kindergarten and first grade, so I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Our 2nd through 12th graders will be very clear with you that they never want to come back to Actions.
Okay,
Well, I still had some more.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. And that actually kind of leads into my next thing is with the kindergartners and the first graders. Again, I'm not sure what the answer is because we get the suspension letters every week. We read them. Dr. Wiegand gets lots of emails from me regarding them, and that there are some children that unfortunately you start recognizing their name, and that's not where you want to be. And what can we do to help these kids become more successful? We want them in class, we want them learning, we want them to not be disruptive to their fellow students because they deserve the opportunity to learn also. So, anything I can do to help you with that, I'm happy to do, so.
Anyone else? Okay, so I have some comments and questions. I really think it is key that you guys are modeling relationship building, because the only way to teach someone is by doing. You can't say you have to do A, B, and C. You have to model that. And so the hope would be that students, as they move forward, they look to model positive behavior and relationship building, because that is so important. The absentee level, I know numbers concern me, because then when we find ourselves comparing ourselves to others and it's within that acceptable range or what's normal for everybody else, we think that is acceptable. I don't think we think the absentee level is acceptable. The 309, I like the 3, and not 3 you're out, but 3 and then we come back and revisit. Real life has consequences. I don't think consequences are always negative. I think it provides a teachable moment. And so I think we have to, how we present that teachable moment is really how it's received. So it's not a negative. So I would challenge us to work on that message after 3. And if you don't come back, then what do we do? So I think we need to let kids know that there are consequences to their actions. And I don't always think consequences are negative. That's just my opinion. One of, the parents that refused in your data, did you ask why? I did. So I would be interested, and I know that's a small number, but that's a really big number.
Right. Of the parents, I try and call every parent of every student if they haven't shown up for the day. And so around 10 o'clock, I make all my phone calls, and I talk to a lot of the parents, and a lot of them say, I want my child to be home because he or she is doing this today, and I think that is going to teach them, and I don't think there will be another suspension. And in that case, I applaud the parent for knowing their child and for knowing what's going to be best for him or her, and I also want to respect that. And so in a way, it may not necessarily be a bad thing that they are not coming to Actions, because they may be doing something that's even more individualized and effective for them that their family knows about. And it may seem silly, but for one student, I remember calling and mom said, he is at his grandmother's house and he is scrubbing his grandmother's floor, and he's going to learn more from doing that than from anything else, any other option. And I said, okay, well, you make that decision for your child, and I respect that. And they'll have a reentry conference when they go back to school, and I kind of prepped her for the conference, and that was that. So some of the reasons aren't necessarily negative reasons that parents are refusing for students to come to Actions, and I think it's important to keep that in mind.
Okay.
Other students have just said, they don't have transportation.
Right. Well, the parents saying no, that was really the question I was asking.
Yeah.
Why were parents saying no? So
I think they're just making different choices
right.
for their child.
I certainly can appreciate that. One of the things that I think is really important as you model to your students, also using this opportunity, and you spoke to it, is teaching our teachers, giving them the tools so that we don't have all of these referrals. Because the last thing I think any of us want to see is actions. Oh my God, I'm going to suspend this kid, send him to actions. It becomes a dumping ground because that is not your purpose. That is not your purpose. And allowing our teachers and administrators to learn, to learn from you. And I get that it can be a lot of overload, but when you have the tools, it makes the job so much easier to redirect that child and not to send our kids away. I think one of the things that spoke to the kindergarten and first graders is one of the 4 things that the kids said that they needed in order to be successful. Respect was the one that really hit home for me, but there were 3 others that were equally as important. And so we all have to remember that. It's important. You guys are doing great work. And as soon as you guys get on the circuit nationally, we just need to get paid, okay? So good work.
We can do that.
Yeah. All right. I don't have any other questions or
So,
comments.
since you mentioned the circuit, I would like to
Yes.
just plug that Orlando and Laura will be on a panel, I believe, for Loyola. So as we talk about changes that are taking place even at our state level, as we take a look at systems, even though our numbers certainly are what they are, at least we are being progressive in our thinking and trying different things. So if you want to go ahead and share.
Right, so I think it was last fall I was contacted by through Illinois Safe School Alliance, by the law school, Loyola Law School, and they were just talking about the new laws, and they had heard we were doing some things down here. A lot of the work coming out of social justice, a lot of work coming out of responsive, culturally responsive education, a lot of I told them about actions at that point. And so they have asked, they confirmed it last week, and Orlando and I are going to go up and be on a panel. It's actually ISB, I can read it all for you, but it's through Loyola University Chicago School of Law, Education Law and Policy Institute, Loyola University Chicago School of Education, and ISBE. And they're trying to highlight schools that, like, how do you keep schools safe, but then reduce as many exclusionary practices as possible. So one of the things that you know of, we instituted last year was kind of the expulsion guidelines and how our buildings are using those, and we're seeing some success. That was one of the things they thought was very interesting to say, yeah, you're really thinking about these things. It's not quick, and I think some places, unfortunately, around the state may not be doing that. And then when I brought up actions, they're very interested. Part of it is when you exclude children, you're excluding them from education. One of the biggest benefits of actions I've said all along that's really important is that the kids get to maintain the work. They get access to the work. They are able to, hopefully, the upper grades, that becomes very critical to keep them on track for graduation. And so I think we'll be highlighting that extensively up there and saying, we know how important it is. Just because you make a mistake as a child, we have ways of doing this. On the other hand, there are we have to balance that with the realities of school and keeping everyone safe. So we are being highlighted up there, and I think while we struggle sometimes with some things, we are making a lot of progress, and we're coming from the right angle.
Thank you. Kudos to you guys. Thank you very much. Did I skip something? Oh, the 2013-14 end-of-year suspension report. Mr. Thomas.
I can just stay here along the lines of the same topic. The culture and climate of the school districts continues to be a priority because it impacts the teaching and learning process, which is the primary goal of education. How to provide a positive and safe learning environment is a multifaceted issue and must involve all stakeholders, schools, churches, families, and the community at large. There's no guarantee that the initiatives that we put in place will have the proposed impact because we're dealing with humans. So I wish I could share with you, if we do this, then X will follow, and that's simply not the case. As you'll hear throughout the presentation, the district has a very systemic way that we address behavior. Every campus has a plan, and we'll discuss some of that in the presentation. I do want to, before we get into the data, talk about some of the issues that are impacting the numbers that you're going to see specific to our district. And the first would be we've had lots of changes in administration, specifically at our elementary campuses. And with that change comes a different style of leader, different leadership style, different expectations. And those changes take time. Research will tell you that sometimes things get worse before they get better. And so we have some campuses that have had increases. We did conduct an RTI meeting with every campus where they had an opportunity to come and share kind of their truths. Here's what we do well as it relates to 3 areas. Those areas were math, reading, and behavior. And campuses were honest, and we were able to create a district document that will highlight the great work that is happening in individual pockets. And so when we think about who's an expert in this area, we've got a school, every school does something well. And so we are taking the best of the best. We have a full day plan August 11th where we're going to bring all of our assistant principals that primarily deal with the culture and climate of their campuses and really roll out the RTI process, which is response to intervention, and highlight our approach is that as the behaviors increase, if you are systemic in your thinking and planning, then your interventions should also increase. And we've got some campuses that are doing that really well, and we've got campuses that are at different ends of the spectrum, and we acknowledge that. And so hopefully that August 11th date will give them not only a document and some examples that they can use, but some contact people that they can use throughout the school year. So as they say, hey, you know, I want to know how they got check-in and check-out started. Oh, that happens really well at Bottenfield, or that happens really well at Carrie Busey, and Amy McGreeny is my contact. I can give her a call. And so really trying to get our administrators to do some more planning throughout the summer, so when that school year starts, they can articulate a very systemic plan to their staff. Other issues, continued increase of the students that are coming to us living in poverty. We saw the numbers 5 years ago. We were at 45%. Now we're at 56%. That's an impact. We've had some legal changes. The weapons is now anything that is used contrary to its intended purpose is considered a weapon. That could be a pencil, that could be a paper clip, and those things now warrant a suspension. Those are changes. Our students that are struggling, access to resources. Do they have internet at home? Do they know how to get to the library? Students that do well have access to those resources within the community. We have had several teachers from the Early Childhood Center that sat on our Discipline Equity Advisory Committee, and they do not currently suspend students at the Early Childhood Center, but they did state that they are seeing an increase in the level and the severity of the behaviors of students. And that's something that is out of our control because you have students that are coming, some that have had experience in a structured preschool setting, and some without. And those without, you have to imagine you're asking a 5-year-old that has never ever had any structure to sit down on a carpet and get prepared for story time for 45 minutes. For a student that has not been exposed to that, that poses some challenges. And so that's where we see the behaviors. Increased issues as it relates to mental health. We are doing a small pilot at Garden Hills Elementary School. We started last year, and we will continue that this year to see if we bring those services to some of our families, will they utilize those services? And the initial data is very promising. I know Cheryl and her team have plans to continue that for this upcoming year. We talked about training and professional development for our school officials, and then continue to work on changing the mindsets of adults by using PBF, positive behavior facilitation. We're continuing our work with culturally responsive education. This year, all of our principals meetings, professional development will be focused with Eddie and around culturally responsive education, and continuing our social justice initiatives. I know Dr. Taylor has gotten that off to a great start, and we continue to encourage staff members to come. And while that's not related to discipline, it is related to the culture and climate because it's related to how adults are thinking and interacting with students. The absence of males in our homes, single-parent homes. The media is not helping us. The glorification of guns, violence. I went to the scene 2 weeks ago when one of our former students, Alan Redding, was shot, and saw 60 or 70 students in our district that's their reality. They observed it. Some saw it. And that's a reality that we face here. And those students will get off the bus on August 23rd, the first day, and that's their story. And then we're dealing with the values and beliefs that students come to school with. And that poses challenges. We have parents that tell their kids, if you're hit, you hit back. Someone says something about your mom, it's on. And we're trying to shift to share with students in this space, that's probably not the most appropriate way to respond. And that's a shift. And so we know that changing anyone's behavior is difficult. That person has to be at a place where they're open to the change. And cognitively, we have some students that are not able to even process. I behave differently at home than I do at school. So those are some of the challenges. With those challenges, we have done lots that is proactive. We've talked about some. This Board of Education agreed to keep the Youth Assessment Center open for another year, which kept 156 students out of our criminal justice system because they received an alternative to going to the Youth Detention Center. They were assessed. We have the Actions Program, which we just presented on, and then we have alternative options for our secondary campuses. We heard from Mr. Maltby about Novak, and I'll give an update tonight about what's happening at Ready, which are two alternative options that the district is using and I think utilizing really well. We're one of the few districts that received the funding to continue with the Truant's Alternative Optional Educational Program, which are called ARTISAs, and they support students and families as it relates to attendance. They're also building relationships. They're serving as mentors, they're coaches, and they wear many, many hats, and so that's another support. We've got mentoring programs that we continue to focus on, and then our schools have systemic plans to address student behaviors when those issues arise. We also approved our school resource officer program, which continues to provide students with a safe environment and to prevent major disruptions from occurring. So with that said, we will take a quick look at the data. First, we'll look at discipline referrals. You see that trend moving downward the last 3 years and a slight spike this past school year. By level, we're all aware of the increases at the elementary level. Middle school has really maintained over the last 4 years, no real fluctuations either way. High schools, you see a significant decrease over the past 5 years. Discipline referrals by ethnicity. We still see a overrepresentation of our African American students, with 75% of all referrals coming from African American students. Once again, that's data that we certainly don't hide. And what are we doing to address it? Our work with Eddie Fergus and being culturally responsive will hopefully help to begin to continue to have conversations about this data. Moving on to suspensions, we see the district-wide increase, the highest it's been in the past 5 years, something that we are certainly not proud of, but right now this is our reality. Elementary suspensions, we are very well aware of the spike there. Middle schools, a jump from the past 3 years. And then high schools, a continual trend downward. Similar to our actions data, the number one reason that students are suspended, physical confrontations. And this is where that value system comes into play. When a student has no other go-to behavior other than to hit back, the reality sets in, and that is that everyday students are faced with choices. Am I going to respond differently? And so we're continuing to teach students that responding with your hands, with your feet, with weapons are not beneficial. And that is, I think, right now the biggest challenge in the district. Over 700 suspensions for physical confrontations. Suspensions by gender, our males continue to certainly have more than our females. Over 90% of all of our suspensions come from students from low SES. We talked about the impact of poverty. Suspension for special education students. Total suspensions, pretty close over the past 5 years, and the number of students similar. District suspensions, you see a similar trend in the ethnicity with our African American students, 75% of all suspensions coming from African American students. Number of students receiving suspensions, always very interesting to see what percentage of students that are suspended, what is that total makeup? And you see 92% of our students never been suspended. And I think that's something we need to applaud and celebrate, and continue to know that, you know, a large percent of our students come each and every day and they do exactly what we ask of them. Less than 1%, when you think of the 167 students with 3 or more suspensions last year, that's less than 1% of of our population. Of those 167 students, well, those 167 students accounted for 721 suspensions. So 1% of the students almost accounted for half of the district's suspensions.
Less than 1% of the students accounted for almost half.
That
Just want to make sure I.
That 167 represents less than 1%, accounted for almost 46% of all of our suspensions. So when you think about who should we be focusing on this summer, who should we be contacting, there's the number.
Those 167.
We know the students.
Mhm.
I can give you the profile, African American, male, low SES, not involved in extracurricular activities. We have the profile. So that's the work that we will continue to do this summer and throughout the school year.
Will we see those students, I know later on, we have the agreement with United Way and Operation Hope. Will
Absolutely.
that program
Yes.
targets
Okay.
the
Absolutely.
167?
That is-
I'm
that
just trying to
is-
make some connections
that
here
is
as
the
to
target population.
The system of supports it.
Yep.
Okay.
Expulsions by ethnicity, similar trends with the majority of our expulsions coming from our African American students. The expulsions have decreased over the past 2 years. Dr. Taylor talked about the process that we're using to review expulsions, and that process has certainly helped students, and we're not undermining or minimizing the behavior. We're certainly just looking at it differently to determine if an expulsion is the best way to move forward. By grade level, the majority of the expulsions coming from high school, and the majority from our male students over the past 5 years. So I mentioned some of our alternative options. You heard from Novak earlier, and here's a quick summary of Ready. So for the 13-14 school year, there were 83 students that attended Ready at some point in time. 62 of them were African American, 18 white, 2 American Indian, and 1 multiracial. The attendance rate for high school, 78%, middle school, 76, total of 77. Expulsions, 27 from high school and 11 from middle, and for a total of 38. Alternative placements, 28 and 12 with a total of 40. So, when a student goes to Ready, they're there for a definite period of time. When that period is up, we have a meeting with the parent. We have a meeting with the home campus to decide how has the student performed at Ready and where do we think is going to be the best placement. We met with 53 students at the end of this year, and 38 of those students said, Ready is the place that I need to be. I am finding success, and this is where I want to stay. So we have allowed those 38 students to stay. The alternative placement piece is something that the high schools, that the secondary campuses have used really well. And so this is before that big event happens where the student needs to be expelled. We look at a Ready placement. The parent has to be in agreement. There's an extensive packet that the schools have to complete that shows that they have put in interventions over a period of time. So they can't just come and say, hey, Mr. T, we've got a student with 3 suspensions and they need to go. They have to show me what have they done. And the high schools have a very systemic way of walking students through that process. And so we are using that alternative placement process and using it well. And so students can be referred for attendance, behavior, academics. Oftentimes it's a combination of the 3. They usually work hand in hand. So, reflections. Several of our schools have implemented MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support. Very fancy way of saying when the behaviors increase, so do our interventions, and we have a very systemic way of looking and monitoring that. Secondary campuses have successfully utilized the alternative placement process. And while we're on that, that's kind of good news, bad news. It's great that they have used it. The bad news is that we are given a budget for alternative education, and we are not going to ask for an increase. And so the action staff that we are adding, those funds will not allow us to have an alternative placement process for our secondary campuses this year. So those 40 students that the past 2 years were alternatively placed, that option will not be available for our secondary campuses. We're using $75,000 to hire an additional teacher and a teacher aide to add to the action staff to support the next one, which is no alternative options for our elementary students. And so I know you guys read all of the suspension letters, and you read and you know very well aware of some of the behaviors. If an elementary student were to exhibit, display some of the behaviors, and they were in high school, some would be expelled. And right now, we have no options for an elementary student. And so we have campuses where it's, once again, that 1%, it's a small number of kids. But at the middle and high school, we have options. We can say, great, if you're struggling academically, it might be Novak. If you are, let's not wait for the big event to happen, let's look at alternative placement. We can look at Ready. If they do something expellable, we have Ready. For an elementary campus, we have no options. And so as the behaviors increase, we are continuing to ask the campuses, you have to think of something else. And sometimes the kid needs an alternative setting, which we right now don't offer. And so those staff are going to be absolutely critical. We've identified 4 campuses that we will work with throughout the summer, and that will be our focus throughout the months of August and September, to make sure those campuses get off to a good start, to make sure that they are aware of the students with multiple referrals, to make sure that they're reaching out to the parents to offer support, to make sure that they know of the go-to people here in the district to offer support when we see some of the behaviors increase. But that's how we plan to use that, but it comes with a cost, and that is we will not have the alternative placement process for secondary students. We talked about the administrative changes. I think we utilized the Youth Assessment Center really well. The Actions program has been implemented, and then we talked about some of the barriers, mental health, poverty, and access. Next steps. I mentioned the response to intervention plans, where we had each campus come and we reviewed their plans and are kind of pulling the best of the best to be able to offer some resources and examples for campuses. Professional development for assistant and associate principals. This is an area that I am responsible for, and I get the APs for 1 hour, 1 day, 1 month. So we have 1 meeting a month where we're supposed to give them all the PD that they need to not only handle their campuses, but to be ready to move into a principalship. And we realize that that is simply not enough. So we are combining those meetings this year. Dr. Degree and I will be combining our meetings, and we'll be inviting Mike, who's here, as well as Jamie. And those 2 hours, we've already created the agenda for the first semester, so our assistant principals are going to be immersed with what we are expecting of our principals, which is a knowledge of curriculum, instruction, and assessment, setting a vision, making good decisions. We've got 4 areas that we'll be focusing on, and we'll be using our resident experts here to come and provide PD for our assistant and associate principals, but those meetings will look very different than they have in the past. We talked about the expansion of actions and the continuation of our social justice initiatives, as well as our district focus on culturally responsive education. So that is the summary. I will take questions if you have them at this time.
Go ahead, Jamar.
All right. Well, the first, I'll make sure I don't forget. Thanks for compiling information and getting us the report. The first concern that I have is one that you just said about budgetary concerns and not having the alternative placement. I know since I've been on the board, there's lots of times we see expulsions of students where there's a history of, like, why didn't we catch this early on? And so we started, and so one of the things I was going to praise you on is that I was glad to see more alternatively placed kids than there were actually expelled, which to me would be a good thing, because that means we were proactive and we've done something to get the kid in the proper position. If Centennial Central wasn't the place for them, it wasn't working for whatever reason, so they wouldn't have to do something to get expelled and keep them on track. I know you've studied this, and there's, I don't know if it's strictly budget or if there's other reasons behind it, but I think we are setting our children up to fail without having an alternative program or alternative placement by not giving them that option, because what's going to happen is that they're going to have to be expelled. And the only reason why you acknowledge these kids or identify these kids is because they were on that path and you saw it. So now we are just going to have to sit and wait for them to do that thing. unfortunately, in a district this size, with the way our community is changing, that thing may be a really big thing. And I don't want to have to sit and wait for that thing, whatever it may be, to happen before we finally get these children some help. And so I don't know where we are in that process. I know I'm just one voice. I would like to see some reconsideration or something happen in that regard.
Actually, Theo, I'll just jump in.
Go ahead.
So, in our conversations, we certainly will be carefully monitoring it, and if I need to come back and adjust the budget, then we will. So I hear exactly what you're saying, and we're not going to sit out here and do what we've done in the past, where we allow a student to build up so much that it does become an expellable offense, right? And then it's in front of the board, where we could have caught something earlier and had a student alternative placed. So we'll certainly continue to monitor that, and we may need to come back and ask for additional funds for ready placements, so that we don't have to have that. But we also want to make sure that we're using all our resources effectively, and that goes to the Novak Academy. And Christine had mentioned when it was first brought on, it was set for 60. And for the last few years, we have always been well below those numbers too. So I think we have to just really be good stewards of our funds and our budgets and make sure that we're using all our resources effectively. But we'll certainly keep monitoring that.
Okay. And then, so into the report, again, I just reiterate, just seeing the numbers increase this year after so many years of decrease definitely concerns me. At our middle school and our elementary levels, the numbers have just about doubled from last year. And so that concerns me, but, I mean, you did state at those levels, we have had very large turnover in almost all of our schools at those two levels. And then when we break down into the actual schools, I mean, we have two schools that account for 300 suspension increase, not 300 total, but 300 increase from last year. That's concerning, but again, there has been administrative change at these schools, and so.
So I think, Orlando, you mentioned that with the staffing that will happen, actions, and you targeted 4 schools. I'm going to guess that 2 of those 4 schools are 2 that you've already just kind of
What are those
referenced,
4
right?
schools?
Garden Hills, Stratton. Go ahead. What are the other 2? Do you remember off the top of your head? I know it's Garden Hills and Stratton had large numbers.
Jefferson.
Dr. Howard and Jefferson.
Okay, very good.
Okay, you hit them.
Yes.
So then, again, I'm glad that we are being very proactive. Our numbers are what they are, but this elementary, and we're doing actions with the new teachers and the teachers' aides, we have to do something, because the numbers, we were on the right track, and now we're going back the other way, and I don't know what all it attributes to. I don't know, is it strictly because of actions? And again, and I just want to make clear, I don't fault actions for doing what they do and doing it well. I don't fault them for that. But it just could be a mindset that, okay, well, there's actions over there, we'll syndicate the actions. I don't know how much of that is, and how much do we truly educate everybody in our buildings of what action truly stands for, if that's the case. If that's not the case, then we need to find out what is the case of why such a large influx of suspended students this year over the past years. When it comes to your numbers, two suspensions and 3 or more suspensions, I have 182 for 2 suspensions, 167 for 3 or more. Are some of those 167, 3 or more in the?
No.
So these are all
Unduplicated.
separate students? Okay. So therefore, just a few students account for well over 50% of our suspensions then?
Yes.
If you add in the 2 or more suspensions, or the 2 suspensions?
Yes.
Okay. And as always, it's very clear the racial disparities is definitely a problem, that we have to figure out what's the heart of that, and which takes me to one of the things that I've always concerned about, the discretionary suspensions that we have, where there's multiple disciplinary actions that can happen for the same act. So some of those, like for me, verbal abuse to staff, disruptive behavior, disobedience, those 3 can change from teacher to teacher, from building to building, from administrator to administrator. And I think we had about 300 of those, if I looked at the right, about 300 of those suspensions were those behaviors. those are the ones that really concern me because they are so fluid. They do fluctuate. Whereas a student in one class can do this, but in the very next class it's suspension. But some of those behaviors could be detentions, or some of those behaviors could be, hey, don't do that again. And so when we have such a wide gamut, that I think that hurts us on some of our suspension. That I don't know if are they nailed down enough of what makes it become a suspension, opposed to what makes it a detention or just a verbal warning inside of our books, because it is very subjective. And it depends on the day, it depends on the adult, it depends on the child. There's so many different factors that go into those. I mean, the other ones are definitely self-explanatory. We have to do what we have to do when it comes to discipline. But I would like for us to continue to look at those discretionary, what I would call discretionary suspensions as we move forward in the future.
Yeah, your point is well taken, and one of the things that we will review with our administrators on August 11th is we will be sharing kind of some non-negotiables. What are things that you need to have in place? And one of the first things is the development with staff members in conjunction with administrators, which is this T-chart. And it's very simple, but you create it with your staff, and it shares what are office-managed behaviors versus what are classroom-managed behaviors. And that eliminates some of the things, making it to the administrator that could eliminate that level of subjectivity that you're mentioning. And so if it's, a kid tapping their pencil, some schools that don't have that T-chart, that teacher may say, oh, you're leaving.
Mhm.
And at the campus where they've had that conversation, that the expectation is that is something that the teacher should be able to manage. And if you can't, then let's get the teacher some support. But your point is well taken, and that's something that is on our agenda to address at that August 11th meeting where we'll have our APs for the entire day.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Lynn?
Okay. I printed off the reports that were sent out over the weekend, and I actually want to highlight some positive things about this. Okay, number one, we had fewer suspensions at the high school level, almost 40 fewer suspensions. So I think that really shows that the work that the staff have done over the years with PBF is paying off. When you get down into individual schools, we had 5 schools that had fewer suspensions. That was Carrie Busey, Centennial, Central, Robeson, and Southside. And if I remember correctly, 4 of those 5 schools have had long-term administrators.
Right.
So I think that really shows the value of being able to build relationships between administration and staff, between staff and students, between administration and students, about being able to set expectations for behavior. In addition, there were 4 schools that had what I would consider a slight increase in their suspension, not a lot, and that was Bottenfield, Dr. Howard, Franklin, and actually Ready, which we don't directly control. That's a separate entity. But 3 of those 4 schools, we do directly control. So there are 2 schools that really jumped out when you look at this. They do account for roughly 300 of the 400 suspensions that we're looking at and talking about, but they also have big administrative changes within the last 2 years. And I do think that while this is a blip, and it does concern me, I'm not gonna jump up and down and scream at this point. Now, if this continues next year,
You might be jumping.
yeah, this is gonna be an unhappy meeting. But, I mean, I think while there are some points of concern within this report, there are also some very good points. And another thing, which kind of builds on the SRO meeting that we had last year, we actually went down in drug-related suspensions. And that's very positive. So, I am concerned about African-American students. We probably will want to look at that and talk at that some more. I'm concerned about multiracial students, but, there are some very positive points within this report, and I do hope that we can build on those successes in the future. I also want to echo what Mr. Brown said about alternative placements. I'm very concerned that those may not continue in the future. We've had some kids who, we've been back in expulsions discussing, okay, after they finish their period that they're expelled for, what happens then? And, some of those kids, I'm confident, are at Ready or at other alternative placements. And for us to potentially lose that in the future, I mean, that's not good. We get a situation that builds up, the kid gets expelled, they're out of our schools for a while, they come, and then they have to come back. And we have no guarantees that things are gonna go any better. So I do hope that we can look at that in the future. I do hope that your other things are very successful, but, you know, I do hope that alternative placements are something we can reconsider in the future.
Yes, again, I want to thank you for all the great work that you're doing on Ready and also, I'm sorry, Action, excuse me. But also, I had a couple questions. One being that for counselors, do we involve them in that training and have them involved? I know from your presentation and others with NOVAC, you know, some of the components that you guys mentioned were counselors, so involving them in that process, you know, perhaps even with educators sending their students to counselors as opposed to principal's office for discipline aspect.
Yeah, right now, we do not have counselors at the elementary level. Dr. Degree, will that be included in the transformation grant?
We did write one. Could potentially use elementary counselors at times.
So we know that that's a level of support that secondary campuses have that would be really beneficial at the elementary level that we don't have, and we've written several grants, and if that comes through, we'll be able to add that component, which is huge at the elementary level.
I agree completely. So I think that usage would be fantastic. And I know that there's budgetary concerns as well. And I know that the SROs do fantastic work in our schools, but there is a monetary, you know, aspect of that. And so here we are, you know, with the budgetary thing that we need to accommodate. And so, you know, when we look at using our resources effectively, you know, I'd rather see it go to things of this initiative rather than others outside of our educational realms.
Absolutely.
Jamari said you had
Yeah, first I just want to thank Ms. Stuckey for pointing out the positives of this, because we have done a lot of work in the district to change this, and I'm glad you pointed out so it didn't go unnoticed to change the direction. But just point of clarity on when we say alternative placement, we won't do that. Does that mean? So I know that obviously means we're not going to go out and identify students at schools and take them over to Ready or somewhere else. But what about the students that are there but want to stay? Are those students included, like you have to come back?
No. We met 38 students that are finding success, that are there past their alternative placement set time or beyond their expulsion time. We are allowing to stay. So we have 38 students that will start the year at Ready that are finding success, and they were allowed to stay.
Okay, and so students that are referred to Ready this year, will they be allowed to stay in the future as well?
If you are a secondary student for this year, the current plan is the only way that you can go to Ready is via an expulsion. We will not have a proactive.
That's what I meant, expulsion. Now, and their year, 2 year, whatever there is up, would they be allowed to stay?
They will, yeah. Right now,
They will.
we've allotted 35 slots for expulsions for next year,
And how many do we have this year?
32.
And it'll go down even more.
It will go down.
So there'll be some more spots. And there's
Okay.
administrative placements that can still take place.
Yeah, there are administrative
So,
placements still available,
mhm.
which is different.
And we'll be looking at the students, I know you met with them, and you talked about their success that they're having at Ready, and we certainly want to have them continue that. But has there been any evaluation of those students to see if they would be candidates for NOVAC, since we have spots there?
We wanted to get the NOVAC criteria
so once you kind of go through that
solidified, and
process this
once
summer,
is
that might
done,
be
we are
another
absolutely going to look
opportunity
at
to take a
transitioning
look
some
at.
of those students. Yep.
I have, I need some help in understanding something.
Okay.
So we've identified 4 schools: Dr. Howard Elementary, Stratton Elementary, Garden Hills Elementary, and Jefferson Middle School. So walk me through the logic as to why we are not offering support for these elementary kids, that we're changing our level of support. Walk me through that logic.
We're increasing it. That's why
We're
we're
increasing it.
Right. That's why the secondary, yeah.
I'm
think
confused.
the notion is that the secondary is not going to have as many options because we're putting in extra staff at Actions with that money to help the elementaries and the middle school.
Because the elementary is where all of our, okay,
Right.
I'm totally confused.
That's
like,
what it
this
is.
is not making any sense
Yeah.
to me.
We're adding some more
Okay.
actions will be devoted specifically to elementary.
Okay.
It's an elementary posting,
Damn, I
and
wish
it's
I
up
would've
currently,
gotten that
yes.
earlier. Okay. Sorry,
us on our
sorry for the
toes.
cursing. Okay, so for the administrators that are younger in their career in leading a building, assistants and principals, I mean, how do we get on, and moving forward, get on the front end of either that PD is offering them support and helping them before we get to this huge increase in suspensions for our kids? How do we get that right off the bat instead of seeing this blip?
We have a meeting scheduled Wednesday and then again on the 23rd with all of our elementary principals to make sure that they understand the direction of the district and the goals and the initiatives, allowing them to share resources and ideas. And then one of the pieces that we're missing is that is the principal really mentoring the assistant principal. Right now they have assigned duties, and sometimes throughout the day those get separated. So we want to make sure that our principals are having collaborations and conversations with our assistant principals so that they know what each other is doing. And so the culture and climate piece right now, the majority of this work falls on the AP, and we need our principals to also be aware and play a more active role and take some ownership in knowing that this is a priority and that they should be involved in all that happens as it relates to things that occur in their building. So
Right.
Dr. Zola has scheduled a meeting for this Wednesday, and then we'll meet again on the 23rd to kind of share the expectations.
So recognizing all the million and thousand things that are going on in the school, we really need to make sure that we have some forced collaboration time and that we're addressing those, because it is, I mean, there's so much going on, and so you do have to force that, and that is critical to the success of our students and to our families.
It's a good way of putting it,
Yeah.
forced
Yeah.
collaboration.
I also think it's important to point out that we've taken much more interest. Typically, a lot of our hiring of assistant principals has happened solely at the building level. We've taken a very heavy interest here. We've done level 2 interviews for almost every assistant principal candidate, especially those coming from outside the district. Susan has had, and a lot of that focus with the principal as part of the hiring decision is that collaboration and making sure that this is going to be a good fit and building that skill set, because these are our future principals, right, and all that sort of thing. We're also doing a number of professional development-related things in terms of handbooks and things that a lot of the information that used to be able to be transmitted at meetings was very, you could do that in an email or you could do that in a handbook, which allows us to then use the time at these meetings to do more of the stuff that you couldn't do in a written form. And so hopefully those things will be helpful as well.
Thank you. I want to thank you for that, Ken, because I think it's really important. I'm very much a believer of promoting within. I think that's critical to the culture. But I also think it's critical that we support our staff and give them the tools that they need so that they can be successful, which in turn our kids and our families in the district is successful. So.
All right, can I just add one thing, which I think maybe slipped by in clarity? So the RTI meetings that we had where we sat and listened to all the schools, there were several of us, and they provided their plans and really the interventions that they use. It was very clear on the school that have fewer suspensions, they have stronger plans. Right, and so it's, and you have different schools at different stages of that process. I've spoken before about how Centennial kind of started 1 year ahead of Central, and you see Central following suit, right? So now they're both kind of headed through that process. I think what the emphasis will be from Orlando and from several others and all of these assistant soups as well is making sure those are very clean and tight at all buildings, and that will help along with the process. So sometimes it's systemic, and sometimes it's personnel, right? Sometimes it's both and how you work together. So I want to emphasize that because I think that's a major part of the success that we have seen and that we will see.
And thank you for the level of detail I know we asked for, and I appreciate, because I think it helps us, instead of just one big number, just to break it down, and so that this got us to the 4, right? So understanding what we need to do to build success. Yep. Thank you very much, Orlando.
Thank you.
Action agenda, new business. I was really hoping to be out by 8, but oh my gosh, we have so much to do. New business, administrative appointment. Mr.
I can read
Cleaver.
fast, but I can't read that fast. The position of assistant principal of Dr. Howard Elementary was recently posted. A team of representatives, including Dr. Howard administration, certified staff, and support staff, interviewed 5 candidates for the position. I'm going to ask her to stand. Miss Wendy Starwalt was selected as the most outstanding candidate. Ms. Starwalt is currently serving Unit 4 schools as a physical education teacher assigned to Carrie Busey. She's held this position since August 2008. Prior to that assignment, she was assigned as a physical education teacher at Dr. Howard from August 2005 through June 2008. Ms. Starwalt also currently serves Unit 4 as the K-8 Physical Education District Coordinator. She's held this differential position since August 2008. Ms. Starwalt's other teaching experience includes serving as a PE teacher for 3 years and as a science teacher for 6 years with Tolono schools. Ms. Starwalt's previous administrative experience includes serving as assistant principal for Unity High School in Tolono for 3 years. Ms. Starwalt holds a Bachelor of Science degree in kinesiology and a Master of Science in Educational Leadership, both of which she earned from the University of Illinois. And we are recommending approval of Ms. Starwalt as the new assistant principal at Dr. Howard Elementary.
Excellent. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Bambanek and Shalafu. Questions, comments? Okay, Tammy.
Yes.
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 Oh, she's gone.
Should we just, can we catch her vote when she comes out, Tommy?
Yeah, or, yes,
Okay, so it passes 6-0, but we're going to give Lynn the opportunity to weigh in on the vote. Congratulations.
Well, I hate to respond. It is a bittersweet moment for me. I've had a great experience at Carrie Busey with kids and colleagues, but I love change, and I'm excited about going to Dr. Howard and meeting 450 new kids and a whole new set of colleagues, and I appreciate and look forward to the welcome wagon of professional development that I'm going to be getting. So, thank you.
Oh, congratulations. So Lynn, we took the vote without you. Did you want to weigh in on the vote? Yes, passes 7-0. Thank you. All right. Next item, administrative appointment at Jefferson. Mr. Kleber.
The position of assistant principal of Jefferson Middle School was posted. A team of representatives, including Jefferson administration, certified staff, and support staff, interviewed 7 candidates for the position. He is not here this evening because he's at the AVID conference, but Mr. Jesse Guzman was selected as the most outstanding candidate. Mr. Guzman is currently serving Unit 4 schools as a social science teacher assigned to Edison Middle School. He's held this position since August 2005. In addition to this teaching assignment, Mr. Guzman also serves Edison as the AVID site coordinator. For the summer of 2014, Mr. Guzman is serving as the middle-level summer school principal. Mr. Guzman holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in secondary education, majoring in social studies from St. Louis University, and a Master of Science in Educational Administration from the U of I. And we are recommending approval of Mr. Jesse Guzman as assistant principal at Jefferson Middle School.
Thank you. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Shalafu Bambanek. Any questions or comments? Lynn first.
No, not this one, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Christine.
I just want to say that Edison is going to be losing an awesome social studies teacher and a great advocate for the kids. And Jefferson is going to be gaining someone who should just do an awesome job. He's just been there for kids all around, so I'm thrilled to see him
That's awesome.
move on,
Great.
move up,
Move
not
up.
move on.
Move on.
Because we were worried about him moving on, so we certainly wanted to be able to keep him in our district.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Provide him that opportunity, so.
I think he's one of the most invited people to come to the high school, what is their honors thing.
They
which is-
bring a teacher to recognize.
Yeah,
Academic award,
yeah.
yeah.
We're ready for a vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Passes 7-0. Congratulations. All right, next item, administrative appointment. Ken.
The position of interim associate principal of Edison Middle School was posted due to the assignment of Tony Howard as interim principal for the 14-15 school year. A team of Edison staff interviewed 6 candidates for the position. She is also not here because she has some other obligations, but Miss Yvette Lane Rose was selected as the most outstanding candidate. Miss Lane Rose did ask me to communicate that she's very excited and appreciates the opportunity. Miss Lane Rose has been an administrator with Unit 4 schools since September 2011. She previously held the position of assistant principal at Centennial High School and most recently was assigned as interim assistant principal at Stratton. Miss Lane Rose is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army and has served 3 tours of extended active duty. Her most recent tour took her away from her administrative duties at Centennial, and when she returned, she was assigned to Stratton. Ms. Lane Rose earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Illinois State University in 1991. She earned her master in education from ISU in 2001. Ms. Lane Rose began her career with Unit 4 as a teacher aide and was then hired as a fourth grade teacher assigned to Dr. Howard, and she has also served as a special education teacher at Jefferson. And we are recommending the appointment of Ms. Lane Rose as interim associate principal at Edison Middle School.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is that you, Jen?
Yeah.
Stuckey and Bambanek? Any questions or comments? Len?
Mr. Cleaver, I hope that you can refresh our memory on this, but wasn't Mrs. Lane Rose one of the Grow Your Own candidates from within Unit 4?
No, Orlando is telling me that was before I was involved with Grow Your Own, but I'm told no.
She was not? Okay, I thought she was. Okay, but she's definitely been very willing to step up for us when we needed her to in the past, and we really appreciate that, and I'm very excited. I think she'll do a wonderful job at her new school.
So can I just say, I love Miss Lane Rose. Mackenzie had her in fourth grade at Dr. Howard, and at a time when Mackenzie really needed Miss Lane Rose, because she is a no-nonsense, wonderful teacher. So I'll be supporting this. Call the roll, Tammy.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Mr. Bamanek?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Sager?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Okay, next item on our agenda is the renewal of superintendent's contract. That would be me. So, Dr. Wiegand, what we're going to do, we're going to do a little roast. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to finish. And we're going to start from the person that has been here the longest as a board member. So we probably should put a limit on each board member's comments. All right, so.
Limit duration or limit of type?
It shuts
So
off at a
remember
certain
the
time,
end
doesn't
goal.
it? TV shuts off at a certain time.
All right.
Well, I guess that means I'm starting with me. Do we have to put this on the table first?
I do need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Shalfu and Safely. Christine.
Okay, so I guess it's age before beauty. Since I've been here longest. So that's, not, meaning you, me.
The starting commentary, it's not you, it's me.
Back in high school again.
But I will say, thanks a lot, Laura, you didn't tell me it was a roast, and I have to go first. So, anyway, but I do want to say, Judy, it has been great to have you leading the district. It's been fun to watch you step into this and get your feet wet and move ahead and move this district in a very positive direction. And I have been and continue to be thrilled with the education that kids get and being able to see where our kids go when they finish with Unit 4. And I think that's very much a part of your leadership and direction. So thank you very much. We love having you here.
Very kind words, thank you.
Guess it's on me. Where do I get that look? So Dr. Wiegand, I guess for me, I definitely also appreciate the leadership that you bring to the district. I appreciate your willingness and courage to step out on a limb and do things that have never been done, that have been hard to do for other past administrators, or either hard or unwilling to do things different. Not everything has worked, but just what we were doing didn't work either. So being willing to step out of the box and try new ideas definitely excites me for where we've come when I first got on the board to where we are with a lot of our issues. We're definitely moving in the right direction. And as you continue to grow into this role, because I don't believe you're where you're going to be. I mean, I think that there's definitely still some growing. I'm very excited to see where we can go as a district. And as a school board member, I'm definitely happy to support those initiatives moving forward, because you have a great team of people. And I know one of the things we talked about very early on is, in this district, we always want to put the right people in the right places. And so there has been lots of movement in our district, but that means that somebody was paying attention to where people were at and realized that they may do a better job somewhere else. And so I'm very excited to see that. And I mean, my biggest one is just how we focused, how you were able and willing to tackle the tough issues and have the hard conversations. I don't think we've always had that luxury in this district. And the open door policy and willingness to meet and talk with whoever. And so that definitely helps us move forward, even when, and being honest, having honest dialogue about where we are. So we definitely toot our horn when there's something good, but we also expose ourselves when we're not doing not so good. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward, and be able, willing to accept the constructive criticism moving forward. So you definitely have my support as well.
It's me next. I'm always impressed and amazed on like the endless hours that you put in. Anyone can send you an email, and I don't know how you do it, but you reply like almost within 30 minutes, an hour. You know, you're very accessible. I also really appreciate your proactive approach that you take in reaching out to the community. It could be a Sunday night and there's a community event and you're there. You know, it's not necessarily a Unit 4 event. It's just different community events and you're present there. So I'm very approachable, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in spite of the fact that you ruthlessly enforce slide limits on any presentation that I do,
Yes.
I want to say that I really appreciate your willingness to consider new ideas. I appreciate your willingness to discuss what's going on in the district with anyone who has questions. I appreciate the fact that you're very accessible to staff, to students, to parents, to community members. Your hard work has not gone unnoticed, and it is definitely appreciated.
Well, I certainly can say that previously, before meeting you at M2 with other community leaders and your administration, your team, certainly was invigorating to have in our community and refreshing to discuss new ideas centered around STEM and computational thinking. And we're seeing that blossom even more in Kenwood. And so I greatly appreciate your forward thinking and looking forward to working with you on this new central for our programming needs for our kids. I think that your inspiration along with your team is needed in this community, and that together we can do some really great things.
So how mean should I be in the rows?
I don't think she expects anything less from you, John.
Don't disappoint me.
Shouldn't expect anything more from me. I think that'd be the right grammatical way to put that. Going last, I guess everybody said a lot already, but I certainly do appreciate a lot of the time you put into it, into being superintendent in this district, having kind of observed from afar until fairly recently. You know, a lot of the difficult questions that we're struggling with and tackling now have been untouched by predecessors, which presents its own challenges, but you've taken that on to get the district on a better track. And while it's not easy, and certainly there's a lot of headwinds, I appreciate that you've taken on that challenge, which I am sure is rewarding and fun all of the time, everywhere. So, but thank you for your service, and look forward to you being here 10, 20 more years.
Thank you.
So how long have you been with the school district? That long?
Yeah, 28 years.
Right, so, and I ask you that question just to say that you've been here and you've been in the trenches. And so having the opportunity to be in a place where you can be meaningful and thoughtful with the work that you're doing and building your team and leading that team and preparing them for the day when they may have an opportunity to step up. It is about that modeling behavior and allowing others to step up. I don't know if you knew how political your position would be when you stepped in. It is a hotbed. It is, you're 24/7. You don't get to shut off unless you go out of town. And so, with your goals that you have put forth, the board is very supportive of those goals, and I know the team has helped put those together for you, understanding what the goals of the district are. So I think that's important. It's important that you have support. Because being that person on the front lines all the time, you're allowed to be able to push off on someone else because you know that they know the direction that you want to go in. So sharing your views with your staff is really important. I also want to commend you on your ability to, with each of us, we all have our own areas that we really are focused on, and allowing us to interject some thoughts and energy into those areas. I also know that there's a lot of work left to be done that you want to do. A lot that our school district has to look forward to. So we're not going to accept your contract to retire. We're just going to be perpetuity. So if that works for you, then I think we can call this for a vote.
Yes.
Ms. Sabley?
Yes.
Mr. Bevin?
Yes.
Ms. Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes. It passes 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Wiegand.
I would just like to say thank you to each and every one of you for those kind words. And I'll have to say that when you stayed back there and didn't come out till for 15 minutes, oh boy. And I knew what you were discussing.
That's the first time we've ever done that.
I know. It's
Yeah.
like, but you hit on a lot of different things regarding the work that we're doing as a team. It is all these individuals that you see hanging out here yet tonight, right? And the fact that, and all of you, and the diversity of our thoughts, but all of us have that one common goal of wanting this to be the best district and wanting to do the very best for all our students and families and see our community grow. And because we all share that common vision, that's how we keep moving forward. So it's, even though it is difficult at times, I have to say that I have no regrets ever. The work that we are doing here or serving as superintendent, it's truly an honor. It really is an honor.
Thank you.
So
Congratulations.
Thank
I can Okay, I think the next item up is administrative appointment. Where are we? Are we further than that? We are. I'm sorry, I wasn't updated. United Way Partner Agency Funding. Mr. Thomas. Boy, that's not you. Orlando, really, it's not.
Operation Hope is a collaborative venture between the school district, the city of Champaign, as well as United Way. And it was created 5 or 6 years ago and focused on the Garden Hills area. At the time, we did an analysis of our attendance issues as well as our discipline numbers, and that became a focus. The program has evolved as we have looked at and received more funding. We are now focusing on the Douglas Center area as well as Bristol Park. The program has grown from 40. This past year, we served more than 110 students, and that focus is on students that look like the 167 with 3 or more out-of-school suspensions, those students that are not connected, that are needing and wanting to be successful, but yet don't have, maybe they're not eligible to be on the basketball team. This program allows them to have something that connects them to school. They use those 4 E's, and that is the background of the program, the exposure, please. They take the kids to the college visits to focus on education, because we now have students that were a part of the program that are now getting ready to graduate from college. And how powerful is it to see a student that sat in your shoes 5 or 6 years ago with no intentions of even graduating from high school, now going to be a college graduate. And so we strategically schedule our visits to go and highlight former students, and we've got them everywhere, Northern, Chicago State, U of I, Illinois State. The program has just been absolutely phenomenal. United Way cut some of their funding, so not all the programs were funded, and ours was one that was not just funded for this year, but they wanted to do a 2-year funding cycle. So at this time, I would like to propose that the board accept the agreement from United Way for $31,300 for the 14-15 school year, as well as the 15-16 school year, to fund the Operation Hope program.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Brown and Stuckey, any questions or comments? Jamar?
So for me, Operation Hope is definitely it's another one of those programs. We have a running theme today of just second chances and looking out for what could be considered the underdog. And that's what the students at Operation Hope, that's who they reach out to, that's who they connect with. And so I appreciate all the work that all the staff that works directly with Operation Hope and then yourself has done with this. I was able to go to their closing ceremonies or graduation ceremonies, not this past year, but last year. And just talking with those students, on the surface, they look like one thing. But when you actually sit down and talk to these students, every single one of those seniors that were graduating were going off to college. So that's one. But then even the ones that weren't graduating, they had a lot of depth to them. And unfortunately, in our society, if you don't have the look, nobody gets to know your depth and what you really have to say. And so a program like Operation Hope, before I say that, and if that's the case, if you're that student or you're that adult that nobody gets to know you, then you never get to know yourself because you never talk about yourself. So you never really bloom and blossom to who you were meant to be. And so having a program like Operation Hope is amazing to be able to pull that out of kids who have various struggles at home, at school, in their personal lives, social lives. They have various struggles that could put them on a path to destruction, but because we have the wonderful staff at Operation Hope with people with the right hearts, it pulls out. So definitely I want to continue to see this growing. And just on a personal level, I mean, the neighborhoods that they address, the Bristol Park, the Garden Hills, the Douglas, I'm a Douglas kid myself. And so that's where I spent all of my kids. So these are my cousins. These are my neighbors. These are my friends. These are my brother's friends that we're helping. And so I want to continue to see everyone do well. And so there's personal connection for me to see this program. And so I appreciate the United Way extending the offer because I do know everyone in United Way is funded directly by donations. That's how they get their money, by donations. And there's hundreds of people pulling for that United Way money. And so for them to see this program fit, I really appreciate the staff over there. And so I want to give kudos to them. I also see that the city of Champaign puts into some of this programming as well. And so I want to give kudos to the staff and the council over at the city for seeing fit that this is worth it, because if we invest in them now, we don't have to invest in them differently later on in life.
Anyone else? I also want to give a shout out to United Way. I mean, it's, when you have the opportunity to fund many different worthy causes in our community, I feel very blessed that not only have they funded this, but they've offered a 2-year opportunity. So I know we'll be successful with it. And thank you very much for bringing it forward. Tammy?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
It passes 7-0. Thank you, Orlando. Okay, Mr. Kleber, AKA Matt.
Yeah, I want to
Bill and
point out,
Treasurer's report.
I am not the business manager, but tonight I am literally playing one on TV, and I'm going to do the best I can. So what you have before you are the bills paid in June 2014, attorneys, check register, and district investments.
So everybody leaves? Okay. So I need.
So moved.
Okay. Oh, listen. Bamanek and Brown, this is the B-Boys, okay.
B-Boys, I like that.
Any comments,
It's gonna
questions?
stick.
I don't think we do. I think we're ready for a vote, Tammy?
Mr. Vadeney?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton? Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Sabley?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey? Yes.
And it passes 6 with 1 absent. Can we come back to that, Tommy? I mean, it doesn't, okay, all right. Thank you. Approval of telephone bids for Kenwood Elementary School.
Board policy states that bids will be solicited when items are expected to exceed a total of $25,000. Invitations to bid were posted on the district's website and advertised in the News Gazette. 1 bid was received and opened on June 12, 2014. Administration recommends that the bid for Kenwood Elementary School structured cabling, paging, and intercom, and the Toshiba iPledge communication system be awarded to Champaign Telephone for a total of $146,936.70. This will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and it did come in below Canon Design's estimated cost.
Excellent.
So moved.
Second. Bambanek and Stuckey. Questions or comments?
Just one question. When we post these bids, is it just, we just post them in the bids area on our website, and then where inside the News Gazette do we post them?
Under legal, I believe. I believe it's under the legal area.
Do you
Is-
know, Arlene, where we actually post it on our site?
If you go to the district website, if you scroll down on the home page near the bottom, there's a finance section, and you click on that, and then there'll be a link for district bids and RFPs. And so everything is listed right there.
Okay. And so when we have these that come up, so is just contractors are just out there, they just have to just study the website and just continue to look, or are we,
I think we sent them out to, like, for example, I'd have to double check, like, the Black Chamber as well as the other
Yes.
chamber.
Sue
and other
Kessler
people.
had
Yeah.
contacted Will Kiles
Okay.
with the Black Chamber of Commerce and sends out these to him so that he can make contact with any of those contractors.
But I just want to know what the process was,
Yeah.
because like, we only had 1 bid, and I don't know.
Right.
Well, but I think with our telephones, we typically only have 1, because I think if you'll see in our other bids, we reached out to some that we knew that could bid, and we invited it, and then other people can respond to it. So I think that's always, with this entity, and correct me if I'm wrong, this has always been
Yep.
just a one person kind of shows up, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
one vendor, I mean,
It's a little more, I guess, specialized, I would say.
Okay.
And as far as the cabling aspect goes, what I've heard from some contractors is it's not worth it for them to only bid the cabling. And you get a better price when you have somebody who's doing the cabling and doing the intercom and the phone, because they can have the same people in there doing the work at the same time. So you see that in savings, I would say, in the bid price, when you have one contractor doing all those scopes.
Okay. Understood.
all right, thank you, Arlene. Karis?
So on the website, I thought Mr. Brown brought up an interesting point on where this is located. Do we have any analytics on the website in terms of what is most clicked, even a heat map?
We do have analytics on our website. I don't know more detail than that, but yes, we do. Is he behind the curtain?
Dave, could you come around?
Yeah, sure.
Good question.
That's we do have Google Analytics that analyzes everything. So I'll ask our webmaster tomorrow to look at that page and see what's been clicked.
That'd be great. That way we can look and see how we can prioritize, some of the information that we have on our website, and perhaps RFQs could be moved over or whatnot.
Sure.
Make sure that we're making it accessible and easy to find to all of our users.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
Cool.
Thank you. Karis, would you follow up with Dave and then report back to the board? Because I think that's a conversation that we've certainly had lots of times, but it would be important just to report out on that, if you don't
Sure.
mind doing that.
Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
As a point of emphasis too, one of the things that the business office does is as they get
interest for certain, if, you know, there are some things that are annual, that are bid, so they'll know, you know, the next year that I'm just gonna make one up, the milk bid goes out, there are certain people that the business office will contact as part of that. And so if there are, you know, interested parties in certain bids, as we know things are gonna be coming up, the business office will make an effort to contact entities specifically
Right.
for that purpose too. So if, as we're going through these processes, there are entities that the people know of that are looking to bid, that's something, communication that can happen with the business office to make sure that word gets out as well.
Thank you, Tommy. Lynn, yes.
I just wanted to thank Champaign Telephone for the fact that this bid came in almost $22,000 less than we initially thought it would be, and I hope that we can continue to see those types of savings in the future.
And that we don't spend that 22,000 that we just saved. Sorry, John. You know, maybe I'm gonna ask for the moon. If we got it, you may as well. All right. Approval of Kenwood Alpha Controls contract. Ken?
Do we need to vote?
Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Shelby?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Sabley?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Now, we are ready for the next item.
So the existing building automation system and the monitoring of the mechanical system in the district's facilities are done with the use of Schneider brand control products. In order to ensure compatibility with existing systems, the district has been working with Alpha Controls to install Schneider products in the renovation projects. Nonetheless, public bids were solicited for these scopes of work. One bid was received. The proposal from Alpha Controls for the access control system and intrusion detection system at Kenwood is for $48,542. This will be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and District Administration is recommending that the board approve this bid.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Van Benek Brown. Questions or comments? I guess I have one, and since Cannon is here, I could ask the question. So if the estimate was 38 and it came in at 48, is there a time difference, or did something happen to where it would have caused the bid to come higher?
Couple of items with that. The estimates that you're looking at are a few years old, first of all, and they were not updated in the last couple of years. I was able to speak with Stuart after the Kenwood groundbreaking, and he clarified that the numbers for this scope of work and the scopes from Champaign Telephone were not numbers from Canon. They were provided several years ago, actually when Roger was still here, initially from contractors as budgetary numbers. The other thing to keep in mind, and I don't know if this was shared with everyone, but if you look at the big picture with the Kenwood budget, and you look at everything that we know so far, which would be the abatement has been bid, the access controls and intrusion detection that we just talked about, that's been bid, the paging, cabling, and phones, the sound systems, the material testing, the inspections from the ROE, and the general contract. You look at those estimates for all that scope, and you look at the actual costs, and we're over by $111. And this is on a $4.5 million project. So you're gonna have some things that come in higher, some things that come in lower, and again, what Canon is providing is an estimate. So, you know, you take into account if those numbers are a few years old, then they haven't accounted for the inflation, for one thing, so that would account for a little bit of it at least. And the other thing is, you know, from project to project with some of this, like the door access, you know, some facilities have more doors that we're putting the key fob access on than others, which is also going to in turn demand more infrastructure for that sort of stuff. So you can't really say each facility is an apples to apples comparison that regard. You're gonna have different quantities on the buildings. That makes sense.
It does make sense. So, help me to understand. So how far are we typically out from the time we know we're gonna do a project till we actually start? Is it usually 2 years? Are we further out, or, I mean, so what I'm getting at is, how do we project that,
More accurately.
yeah, more accurately? But $111, I mean, that's awesome.
Yes.
Right?
It is.
So I get what you're saying, but for me, I'm thinking about high school when we're talking millions. How do we get to a better number, or what's the process for that?
Well, I know the numbers for the elementaries, I've been here 3 years, and when I started, Garden Hills and Booker T were wrapping up. So you started this process, at least 5 years ago? And I'm sure when the budgets were initially set, they were set by building need. For example, Robeson is not getting an addition versus, Booker T, where you had to demo an old building and build an entirely new facility. So those numbers are gonna be quite different. And I know that Cannon had at that time accounted for inflationary factors for the facilities, and some of that depended on the order in which you were going to construct them. So again, when that changes, that also affects the budget numbers. And, these particular items, simply just didn't get updated in that regard. But if you look at, for example, the number for Bottenfield for this scope of work, it was about this cost,
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Ready for a vote?
Mr. Benedict?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelter?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Sabley? Yes. Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Thank you. It passed the 7-0. Arlene, thank you very much. Can I ask, I know we asked John and Arlene to talk a little bit about water over this past weekend. And John, you're such a trooper. It's 9 o'clock. And you're not even on the agenda, man, so how do we get him
Maybe
up here?
if we can just go ahead and do the approval of Bottenfield change order and have a motion and a second, and then discussion, we could bring up discussion of buildings during that time? Is that okay?
Okay, approval of Bottenfield change order. Ken Cleaver.
So you have in front of you a change order totaling $22,406 for a variety of issues at Bottenfield Elementary. The total project contingency on this project is $394,484, and that leaves the current total with approval of this at $281,501.
You need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Bamba Stuckey. John, could you come up and speak to that then? Is that what we said we were going to do?
Right, so could you maybe talk about, we had so much rain,
We had some
right,
water issues.
This weekend. Maybe we can connect it with, were there any issues at Bottenfield? Okay, were there issues at other buildings?
Yes, there was.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And
So
I'd
there-
like to present that right now.
Thank you, John.
These are the issues that we had. So let me go through all these, and then I want to give you my take on it, because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't in the district this weekend. I was operating from my couch with my phone, talking to Tim and Scott. And so I reviewed all this today and talked to both gentlemen, so I had to do some research. So Westview, we had stormwater backup from city storm drain from Russell and John. I have called the engineer for the city of Champaign, hopefully get a call back. And also tomorrow we're meeting with a civil engineer that did the work on the project. I don't believe that anything that we did during the construction of that school is causing our issue. I truly believe it's the capacity that the city storms are not taking. The other building that we had an issue at was Early Childhood Center. We had storm and sanitary line from city line back up into the building. The storm was from Randolph, and the sanitary was more from the Head Start area back in the laundry room area, comes up to the floor drain. Again, I will talk to the city engineers about that. I was involved in that cleanup of that early childhood building last February when we had the same type of backup. And when I talked to the city at that point, their comment to me at 11 o'clock at night, there's nothing we can do until our storm lines go down, and then your water will go down. We have put some precautions in on the Randolph Street side, putting a back check valve and a valve in there to where if we know that we're going to get a large amount of water, which you never know until you get 5 inches in 4 hours, that you can close that, and it keeps the storm water from coming in. We might have to do that on the sanitary side, on the Neal Street side at early childhood, and we're going to look into that at both of those buildings, Westview and early childhood. Dr. Howard, again, that's from the city storms. If there's no, we had so much rain in such a short amount of time that it just come back in our building. And if the city's stuff is not going to take it, then we don't have any choice other than to put these back checks in or valves. And that's going to be costly for us, but I think that that's the direction that we need to go at these three buildings. South side was just due to a blocked drain in the stairwell, and the water came in underneath the door. It was minimal, and it's taken care of at this point. Central High School, we had water in the kitchen and the cafeteria, that's the lower level. Again, the sanitary and storm runs out to University. So that's the same line that takes care of Dr. Howard. So hate to throw the city under the bus, but you know, there's some issues there and they know that. And if you recall, about the time we opened up Westview was the time they ended the John Street project, which was 1 block west of Prospect. Ever since then, we've been getting water down there. So the only other issue, this has been an ongoing, it's to Carrie Busey and Savoy. We've had a small roof leak in the library. Arlene has been, and I have both been talking to Trimco. We've had them out there twice in the last month. We've got it down to a trickle. It's just barely coming in. They are coming back this week. If they have to tear off the fascia and the under structure to find out where this water's trickling in at, then they'll do that. That's minimal compared to the other buildings that I spoke about. But I've got appointments set up with, like I said, the civil engineers. I don't believe it was anything due to construction. I think it's the city storms backing up and the amount of water we had Saturday. Every place got flooded. Tim and Scott had guys on that immediately, and it's been cleaned up. We're doing some drywall repair on the Head Start side of early childhood. Should be done after tomorrow, so they can get back in the rooms. And it's being everything's being sanitized. But that was the worst side. The Head Start side, everything on our the early childhood side has been cleaned, sanitized, and has been put back. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, John. So if we put locks, or you mentioned on like 3 of our schools, does that not force the water to go somewhere else to somewhere else? So if we're not letting it in our place, it puts pressure on it other places. Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what.
I mean, it's just.
Last, well, two little stories. Last February, when we had issues at, well, it wasn't February that we had issues early childhood, it was more in the fall. There was so much rain that it was raising the manhole cover up off of the street. And so with us shutting that off, we need to shut that off, because if it goes into our building, comes up through our floor drains, we're just fighting an endless battle, because we can dump it outside and it's just going to keep coming in. This last Saturday, when Tim Popovich was at the Westview School, we have two storms on the north end of that building. The one closer to the service drive, the water was just pouring out of that, going right down the service drive, right to the south, right to our building. And so, you know, if we put a back check or a valve in that to stop that, I don't care where it goes if it doesn't come in our building, to be honest with you, because we have to clean that up. It ruined all of our wax. I mean, we had just had that bottom end cleaned and everything, had it waxed. They have to go back through there. It costs us some money, not only for cleanup, but to re-wax that. So
Insurance, I'm guessing, does not cover this, Mr. Business Manager. Tommy,
I talked to Matt about that today.
Well, and so those are discussions that, I mean, it's really on a case-by-case basis, if it's, depending on what needs to be done, how you would want to address it, if you would want to file a claim or not.
What, I told the guys that are
Right.
working in these buildings to make sure that they give me a detailed account of all the hours they worked, when they worked, and what they had done in the buildings as far as waxing and cleaning, and what they have to do again. So we know what our loss is and how much it costs us. And then, when I did talk to Matt on the phone today, I told him when he got back that we should have all that together, and that he and I would discuss that and decide if we needed to call Fields and find out what we can do. So, because we had quite a bit, I mean, the lower level of Westview, everything was wet but the gym had water in it, so it was a big deal.
well, thank your team for doing the work and standing guard over the weekend. I know
Yeah,
a
there
lot
were,
of people.
there were a lot of people. I talked with Scott a couple times as it was going on, and they brought a lot of people in and worked really long hours, 12-plus hours, I believe, to get some of that done, so really appreciate it.
So shout out to those guys. Thank you, John.
Thanks.
I have a
Okay.
quick question.
Yes, Chris.
So in that too, I was going to ask about that insurance. One being that, did we take any pictures?
I do have some pictures. I don't know how many pictures Scott and Tim took. So I gotta put all that together. I was there today. I took some pictures of water lines on the outside of our buildings, how far they came up from, different areas. Which I was gonna show that to the civil engineer. But, basically, when these kids get out there, there's an inch and a half of water on the floor. They're not taking pictures. They're like, how do I get this up? So I know Scott and Tim did take some, but I don't know if I'm gonna have a complete portfolio.
Sure, no problem. I'm definitely not looking to put it on my wall by any means. But yeah, I think the pictures would be beneficial for insurance claims, and then certainly with the city too, as we may have dialogue later on. Also too, I didn't know in that insurance claim if we thought about maybe talking to the insurance to see if they'd be open to working with us and putting in valves, because a lot of times it may be cheaper for them to put in valves than it is to have a reoccurring claim. So there may be a business prospect there that we may be able to incubate a little relationship there. And then also with the insurance, I would like to see if there's, in your expertise, if there is any long-term damage like mold and so forth, that may come about.
You don't get that cleaned up immediately, and you let it set. That's why at early childhood, we cut the drywall out 12 inches from the floor up to get rid of that, and so there wouldn't be an issue.
Good.
Any drywall that's wet, we'll cut, we'll remove that and replace it. A lot of the issue at Westview was block, so we're not gonna have that per se. It's when you get it in the drywall, the stuff that's behind that, the insulation that just sits there, so. The guys have thoroughly gone through all of these areas to make sure that we don't have that, because that is, I don't want the problem, and I don't want the staff coming in,
Right.
the kids coming in,
Right.
and, smelling something, and then all of a sudden we've got an issue. We're gonna do it right the first time, and move on. And hopefully it doesn't
John, could you keep us updated as to the conversation with the civil engineer? And I'm sure you'll be asking, because I know they've gotten lots of comments from people in the community. And I know it was a lot of rain, really quick, but obviously the call is going to be, how are you going to fix it? So if you could just keep us apprised as to how that conversation moves forward for us, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so now I think we're ready to talk about.
We need to vote.
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. Approval of Westview change order number 16.
So this is a credit change order, and so it is a slight change and would give us back $20,000. So we would still be over as far as our contingency goes, but not by as much as we had previously been. And obviously, we are recommending approval of the change order.
So moved.
Second.
Brown and Bamanek, any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Bamanek?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Bamanek and Brown.
Mr. Bamanek?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Okay. I do have something I want to read from our closed session earlier today. It is the recommendation of the Board of Education that student number 209139 should be expelled from Centennial High School for the 2014-2015 school year and should be reassigned to Ready for violating conduct codes number 14, gang-related activities, number 19, physical confrontation with student, number 25, threats to or intimidation of a student, number 29, verbal abuse to student, number 31, other acts that endanger, and number 36, mob action. The student may return to his or her regularly assigned school following the expulsion period. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Stuckey and Shalfo.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Bamanek?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Passes 7-0. I need a motion to move into closed session in accordance with the Illinois Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/2C, necessary to consider one of the following subjects, including but not limited to 120/2C5, property acquisition, lease purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Bamanek Brown?
Mr. Bamanek?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Bonnet?
Yes.
Ms. Shelton?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Ms. Stuckey?
Yes.
We are now in exec session, 9:17.